Select Board meeting to order. I'm going to give just a quick overview of this evening's meeting. So we are broadcast on RCTV, Verizon 30, Channel 33, Xfinity 22, also on Facebook Live, the link from RCTV as well as YouTube. We also offer public participation at the meeting. Caitlin, did anyone submit for, okay, I didn't think so. So no one has asked to have public participation this evening. Schedule for the evening, just a quick overview. We'll have a COVID-19 response. Dr. Rick Lopez and Bob will update in terms of what's going on. Then I'm going to turn the meeting over to the town manager. The select board will reorganize at that point. After the reorganization vote, we'll do liaison reports. We don't have public comment this evening. We'll see if we have any outdoor dining. Do we have any outdoor dining licenses to go through? We do not. Okay. We have a public hearing at 8. Changing the officer at Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza. Then we have an article on Chimney Hill at 102 Haverhill Street. We'll talk about Cedar Glen. There's an issue to allow the HUD loan. We need to do something about our right of first refusal, and Ivrea Freed will join us from Town Council. We're then going to, Sean Donahue is going to join us, talk a little bit about town personnel policies and select board policies related to Article 6 of our policies. Jane Kinsella is going to come to talk about Black Earth composting. We'll offer a little bit of feedback and comments on town manager goals that Bob had given to us earlier in the year. Approve meeting minutes, future agenda topics. Then we will move to go into an executive session related to strategy with respect to civil litigation and administrative actions involving 59 Middlesex Avenue and the purchase of said property, with the intent of, I believe, to not come back into open session, but that will be up to the new chair when we get to that point. So without further ado, let's go to the COVID update. And I see Dr. Rick Lopez has joined us. Rick, can I hand it to you?
Yes, good evening. So I wanted to just briefly cover 3 areas. One is in terms of cases. There were, as of last Thursday, there were 68 cases, active cases, which is fairly stable from the week before. Reading remains at moderate risk, and our test positivity rate's down to 2.5%, which is good. So that's declining. It's sort of what the state is seeing as well. Of those 68 cases, about 15 to 18 are related to school staff or students. But in talking with our public health nurses, they say that oftentimes most of these cases are not actually derived from in-person attendance at school, but rather students attending activities outside of school, hanging out together, extracurricular activities. And so it's really not being in the school that's been a problem. There haven't been really any significant clusters of note. Secondly, in terms of vaccinations, the town has provided 869 vaccinations, first and second shots, phase 1 and phase 2, since that effort has begun. There was data in your packet that I was pleased to see that 89% of residents over 75 have had at least 1 vaccine dose, and 77% are fully vaccinated. And then for the 65 to 74 age group, the numbers were 81%, at least 1 dose. The work that the Board of Health has been doing along with public safety has been around vaccinating homebound patients, second vaccines for other residents who were previously vaccinated, and senior and affordable housing vaccination. So those clinics have been ongoing over the last 2 or 3 weeks. And then finally, our public health nurse noted that apparently as many as 229 students at the high school, I'm presuming these are more seniors, have actually had at least 1 vaccination, which is good news. And then finally, we're having some, or our interim health director is having some early discussions with the Pleasant Street Center about opening activities there. And this would be done on a event by event basis, ensuring that we're following COVID guidelines. But there's an interest of starting more activity there. The civic and recreational permit request process that I mentioned last time has been going smoothly. And it seems like the staff and Jenna at the recreation department and are working well together, and that's been going smoothly. So those are the only updates I have. Any comments or questions, or I don't know, Bob, if there's anything from Incident Command that you'd want to mention.
Yeah, if I might, thank you. Along the COVID lines, the Burbank Ice Arena is targeting June 1st to be open. Today, they started a conversation with Peter Morandi with that goal in mind. As we get more information, we'll certainly keep the public updated. To follow up and add a little color to some of Rick's comments, our vaccination numbers in our health region are outstanding. I think North Andover might have edged us out for first place, but it was pretty close. But it really says a lot to the public safety and health staff that have really done a great job. Certainly it speaks well to the residents reaching out to the bigger clinics, but we've also had a pretty successful home visitation series of clinics. And thankfully, this is in a good news, bad news story. I was watching Meadowbrook's recent fire on the news one morning. And fortunately I was, very sadly, because I found the Johnson & Johnson news about pulling the vaccine literally 15 minutes before the EMTs were packing up supplies to start another homebound clinic that day. So the state didn't advise us till about 10 o'clock, but because I happened to be watching the news at 7:15, we're able to stop that Johnson & Johnson home vaccination clinic and reschedule it. The J&J vaccines, for whatever they're worth, were so much more convenient for the homebound because it was just one dose. So, we had done extensive planning around that and obviously had to change. By all accounts, and Rick, if you've heard anything, I've not heard of any significant consequences for people that have received the vaccine, J&J vaccine in Reading. Any steps they need to take? There are none, just, be aware.
Right. We really haven't had any adverse effects at all with any of the vaccinations we've given.
Yeah. And lastly, not to be the voice of doom, but yesterday the U.S. hit an all-time high for daily cases. So, amidst the happiness that we're feeling in Reading and in the Commonwealth, the rest of the country and especially the rest of the world is in quite different shape. Some of the vaccines were pulled overseas, and there's some countries that have done almost no vaccinations at all so far. So this is still a really big issue globally. I applaud all the efforts of the residents locally, but just stay on your guard. This is not going away anytime soon. That's all I have. Thanks.
Board members, any questions, comments? So if I could, Rick, thank you for your leadership and kind of guiding us through this process. It's been great. I know that the board has been pulled on very hard for a long time. And I think it's helped for the safety of the residents and kind of keeping everybody informed. So much appreciated.
Thank you. You're welcome. I think the board is really functioning quite well at this point. And I think the department, the health division, even though we're a little bit understaffed and sort of patching things together, they've done a remarkable job to continue these efforts despite it all. So I think it's positive all around.
Awesome. Great.
Rick, it's good to be talking about positive forward.
Yes, like positive.
What's going on at the Board of Health. It's awesome.
Superb. Great. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Before I turn the meeting over to Bob, sorry, welcome Chris to the board. I should have said that at the outset, and I apologize that I didn't, but welcome to Chris Haley, our newest member, on a virtual basis to start, and hopefully there'll be other opportunities as time goes on too, but welcome.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it.
Okay, with that, I am going to ask that Bob become the, oh, I'm sorry, Ann, go ahead.
I just wanted to echo Mark's welcome to Chris, and further would also like to thank Mark Doxer for his service as chair over the last year, which was a very challenging year given COVID and so many other challenges we faced in town. So thank you for your leadership in guiding us through this challenging time.
Very welcome.
I'll second.
I echo that as well. Thank you, Mark.
Very welcome. Thank you. It was an interesting and exciting time, I think, to be chair, and we're all here, which is great. So let's keep going. With that, kind of per our procedure and process, I think what we do is we ask Bob to take over from me as temporary chair and then lead the discussion into reorganization. So let's do that. Bob.
Hey, thanks, Mark, for especially for Chris, new member. The board tonight should appoint a new chair, vice chair, and secretary. Those roles are defined in the select board policy if anyone has interest. It starts with the nomination for select board chair. Once a chair is chosen, that person then takes over the rest of the meeting and handles nominations for vice chair and secretary. So what I will do is I will open the floor for nominations, and I'll call for a show of hands with nominations. Once all the nominations appear to be finished, I'll ask for nominations to be closed. And then, you know, in person, we just do a show of hands vote, but I think I said we do a roll call vote alphabetically. Honestly, we can do it any way you'd like. And if no candidate gets 3 votes in the first round, traditionally what the board has done is eliminate the lowest vote getter and do it again. And eventually someone will get 3 votes and you'll have a chair, and then they can work through the vice chair and the secretary process. And before I do that, I'd also like to thank Mark for his work. No one has any idea how much work was entailed in being the chair over the last year. I really appreciate your hard work, Mark. I know it wasn't always easy. But at this point, I'd open up the floor for nominations for chair of the select board. Ann.
I will nominate Karen Herrick for chair.
Okay. Chris, did I see your hand? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I would.
You got his virtual hand up.
I have a virtual hand up, yes. I'm just piggybacking kind of off what you and Ann and the rest of the board said, that this year has been very unprecedented, and I know how hard Mark has worked and whatnot. And I had the luxury or not luxury of speaking with numerous residents along the campaign, and just I got a question asked multiple times when we were going back in person, when can I go back to a meeting, all that stuff. So I think in the best interest of Reading, I would like to make a motion to postpone or suspend our reorganization until we can have in-person meetings again.
So we need a second for each motion, don't we? Or a nomination, and we definitely need it for a motion. Do we need it for a nomination?
I would say you don't need it for a nomination, but I would say that for a motion, you would need it.
I'll second.
Any other nominations for chair? Seeing none, it sounds like the motion really should be dispensed with first. So I got a motion and a second to postpone the reorganization until the board should meet in person. And I was going to share as part of the town manager's report, but I'll say it now. Town Hall had a pretty serious flood on April 10th, a Saturday. I'll show you pictures during the town manager's report, but suffice to say, you will not be meeting at Town Hall anytime soon. However, there is every opportunity to meet at the high school in the Scatini Library. Honestly, even aside from the flood and the damage that it caused, the Scatini Library is much larger. The school committee has met in person. To the extent you want to welcome the public in, whether it's a public hearing or just a regular meeting, that room is far better to hold public meetings. So to the extent the board would like to start meeting again in public, I don't know how quickly I could arrange that with the schools while school is in session, but I'm quite sure that that's an option going forward. So with the motion on the floor having been proposed and seconded, all those in favor of the motion, just please raise your hand, and then we'll do a roll call vote. All those in favor?
Should we discuss?
Oh, I'm sorry. Certainly, if you want to discuss it, by all means. I didn't see any hands. Sure, Mark?
Thanks, Bob. I think that I'm not sure when the board will be ready necessarily to go back into in-person meetings. It introduces questions of inviting the public in and how many people can attend and activities like that. Not everyone is vaccinated, and I guess I've actually found the Zoom meetings, at least for a little bit now, work pretty effectively. I think we're able to be in rooms this way without masks. I think we're able to communicate pretty well together. You know, at some point, clearly we need to get back together. I can't say that I know when it is. I mean, if someone were to say, hey, let's start doing it at our next meeting, I would not be in favor of that. I'm not ready for that. I'm not vaccinated. I'm not ready for that activity. So I'm not sure that kind of delaying until that date, I'm not sure when that date's going to be. And so I would not be in favor of the motion.
Okay, Carlo?
Can I make a suggestion, guys? As we said, or as everyone has said or knows, that it's been a challenging year. We had one in-person meeting, quasi in-person meeting over a year ago, and then we went straight to Zoom. And Mark and Bob and town staff and us have done a tremendous amount of work, but you know, Bob and Mark and town staff have done all the heavy lifting. So I want to propose that Mark continues to be the chair via Zoom until we can meet in person, because Mark has the experience with the format. He's been to all the command meetings, and I think it'll just make an easier transition from Zoom to in person. And that's kind of what I propose to everybody.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Yeah, Karen?
Thank you, Bob. So I would agree with Mark that we've probably had double the number of normal select board meetings, and we've made Zoom work, and we've accomplished a lot this year. I don't know when we'll be able to phase back into in-person meetings. I do have vaccinations scheduled for myself, which would make me feel more comfortable. And personally, I would like to see everybody vaccinated before we go down that road. So I would not be in favor of this motion. The select board has operated quite effectively and collaboratively and gotten a lot of things done during a pandemic. I don't see any motion. Thanks.
I was delighted to get my first shot today, but it was not J&J, so I still have a little ways to go before I'd be comfortable being in person. Certainly would want everyone else to have the same opportunity and same comfort level. I appreciate the Zoom format, which has allowed participation and I think in some ways increased engagement with some members of the public who've been able to participate more readily. I do look forward to our return to in-person. I miss seeing people in person. I look forward to that time, but I think we're not quite there yet. I do think we need to proceed and move forward with the business of the community, notwithstanding being able to meet in person quite yet. And I think that reorganizing is what we're tasked to do at the first meeting following the election, and we should move forward with that.
Are there any more comments or questions? Carla?
I agree with Mark. I mean, I'm sorry, Karen and Ann, but I think it's prohibitive to the public. I mean, I understand this has worked well and people still can, you know, dial in and comment, but, you know, having attended many in-person meetings while campaigning and not campaigning, it's a different experience, and more people, I think, would attend and to be supportive and supported and just have a voice. This is a very difficult format for the public. For us, yes, it does work great. But I think for the public, that's the only, I know we'll meet in person eventually, and I'm not saying next meeting, I'm not saying next month, but I think it's coming. I believe the whole board, it sounds like, is going to be vaccinated very soon, and I don't know about town staff, but again, I'm not proposing anything crazy, or Chris isn't. It's just a continuity. You know, that's where I stand. I'll do the will of the board. We'll have a vote on this, but I think Mark being chair for a few more months would help us transition. And once we get into in-person, which is the traditional format, maybe they'll make it easier for a new chair. Maybe it won't. I don't know. I think it'd make it easier because Mark's done a great job. Thanks.
Yeah, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, the sense that I'm getting is that we're not ready to go back today, tomorrow, next week. It's pretty clear of that. My take on it is just extending 2 weeks ago and just continuing forward until we're able to meet that. If it's 4th of July, if it's Halloween, I mean, that's the end date. So the good news is if we get to that point, we're on the back end of COVID and all that. So it's better for everybody. So I know it's not tomorrow or next week and whatnot. I'm just looking to carry on how things were going and just keeping that going forward.
Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll actually ask for a roll call vote as was outlined in your memo. The motion on the floor from Chris Haley is to postpone the reorganization until the board can meet again in person. Carlo?
Yes, would be to approve that, correct? I'm sorry.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay, yes. Mark?
No.
Chris?
Yes.
Karen?
No.
And Ann?
No.
I'm sorry, Ann? No?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the vote being 2 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative, that motion fails. We only had one motion for chair, so I close the motions and declare that Karen is chair. Karen, you can now take over and conduct a search for a vice chair and a secretary.
I don't think we were given an opportunity to speak up.
Point of order, my friend.
Point of order, do we need to vote and vote Karen in?
You're welcome to do that. In the past, when the board's only had one nomination, they've not done that, but I'll certainly call for the votes. I did call for any other nominations and there were none.
Right. I just don't know in our remote, with the.
Okay, a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, it went pretty quick. It went pretty quick.
Okay, so we'll do a same roll call vote. Karen Herrick is chair. Carlo?
What are we? I'm confused.
I'm sorry. This is Karen Herrick's name was put in nomination for chair, and now I'm going to conduct the same order roll call vote. And Ann points out that in a virtual format, we really do need to have a roll call vote to have it be part of the official record.
Right, but no one else was given the opportunity to vote for chair. It was just Ann.
I asked for any other nominations and none were forthcoming.
Okay. Everything happened pretty quick, but okay, sure.
I mean, the board can certainly do what it will. I'm only here temporarily.
Yeah, I think we usually have more than one nomination, but correct me if I'm wrong.
Point of information, we had nominations open and then we had a different motion and we voted on the motion and we closed the nominations and we just need to vote on the chair.
It was a little convoluted. We didn't really close the nominations, no.
No, we actually did it correctly.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know what exact words I used. I know there were no more nominations, but I don't know the exact words I used. I certainly don't want to cut off discussion or debate, so it's really up to the board.
Could I make a little statement? Mr. Temple Chair.
I'm sorry, Karen, did you want to say something?
Yes, sure. I just wanted to thank Anne for the nomination. It really has been an amazingly tough year, and I know from my purview that the chair is a very difficult role. And again, as I thanked Mark and both Mark and Ann earlier for setting such a great example during one of the most difficult periods in our nation's and our city's, our town's history. So I'm happy to accept this. And it has been my privilege to serve on this board during this pandemic. And I am prepared and ready to serve as a select board chair for the next 12 months. I'm fortunate in being able to leverage not only having survived this intense first year of service, but also nearly 2 decades of local government service. And for me, even after going through a year in Zoom, it's still very clear that collaboration and communication are critical to achieving our mutual goals. And the select board is fortunate to have so many dedicated and savvy volunteers in our community willing to help us reach these goals. So again, thank you, Anne, and I would be honored to serve the chair of the select board. And I look forward to working with each of you for the benefit of the town. Thank you.
Bob?
Yeah.
I would like to get us all on the record for nominations of who we would pick, please.
Sure.
You can pick who goes first. I don't want to be the,
I'm
So you're
sorry,
talking-
repeat that, Carlo?
sorry?
So you're.
I'm sorry, I missed the last part.
Roll call vote, right?
No, I want input, since we only heard from Ann, and to me it went a little fast because we were doing two things at once. I would like all five of us to declare who they would nominate as chair, not just one person. I think that's fair.
I think that's, you can't force the members to make comments. Nominations were open, nominations are closed, another motion was put forward, we voted on the motion. And now at Ann's request, and it makes a lot of sense, we just need to have our votes be roll call votes so they can be recorded in the minutes and comply with all Zoom virtual meeting requirements.
I understand that, but from last year's meeting, everyone chimed in, and this went a little quick. And I don't think Mark, myself, or Chris was given an opportunity to nominate a chair.
You were. So at this point, you can give input on the nomination. Correct me if I'm wrong. You can give input on the nomination, as can anybody here, but the nominations are closed.
Carlo, it sounds like you want to move to reopen nominations.
I guess, yeah. That's not. I just want to we're a board of five. I want to just get us, who we want to nominate. I wouldn't nominate Karen, so I want that to be noted. That's all.
Yeah, I certainly take Carlo's point that it was an unusual circumstance. It was awkward for a motion to be on the floor. And until the results of that motion were known, perhaps someone wouldn't want to make another nomination, even though I asked for it. So I take the point that it was unusual, that it was different.
I'm not asking
And it's up to the board to, solve it.
Yeah, I'm not asking anything crazy, guys.
So is the question to basically kind of step back for a second, reopen nominations? Is that kind of what we're asking?
I think that's fair. Yeah, thank you, Mark.
I think I'm if that's the will of the board, I'm fine with that.
So if someone wants to make a motion and then a second, so I guess it would be moved to reopen nominations for chair.
I'll make the motion. Move to reopen nominations for chair of the select board.
Anyone second?
Second.
It was Chris. Okay. Let's vote on the move to reopen nominations. I'll do it in the same order. Carlo?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Karen?
No.
And Ann?
Yes.
Okay, the vote being 4-1, nominations are reopened. Show of hands, are there any other nominations on the floor? There being one right now for Karen. Carlo.
I
Sorry,
nominate myself.
Bob, I couldn't hear you. My dog was barking.
Sorry. I was asking to, Karen's name is is nominated and on the floor. Are there any other nominations? And Carlo, I called on. Carlo?
I nominate myself.
Okay, Karen, Carlo. By a show of hands, are there any other nominations for chair? Going once? Going twice? Sold. Okay, again, we'll use alphabetically. I have to get my trusty alphabet out. I'll call on votes for Carlo as chair first, alphabetically, and I'll also go through the same alphabetical roll call. Those that vote for Carlo as chair, please indicate with a yes or a no. Carlo.
Yes.
Mark.
No.
Chris.
Yes.
Karen. I'm sorry, Karen.
I'm on mute. No, sorry.
Thank you. Anne.
Yes. No. Sorry.
What
No.
was that, Anne?
No.
Okay. And now Karen Herrick's name is on the floor for nomination for chair, and I'll go through the same order. Carlo.
No.
Mark.
Yes.
Chris.
No.
Karen.
Yes.
And Anne.
Yes.
Okay, the vote being 3-2, 3 for Karen, 2 for Carlo. Karen is now chair and will take over the meeting. Are there any other further motions before we move on?
Excuse me, just a point of information for a second. So that the motions here, once Karen takes over, that will be for the vice chair and for secretary, right?
Correct.
So you're asking for motions outside of that.
And I just asked for a motion because sometimes boards like to vote unanimously at the end. But that's up to the board.
I was going to ask about that. I've seen, in other settings where there have been a couple of different nominations for president of something or chair of something, and then in the end, it's often the person who was not ultimately successful who makes a motion for, I think it's like a vote by acclamation to support the new chair or president. And I wasn't sure if folks would be interested in that. I think it could be a nice thing to do if folks are.
So again, I'll call if there are any motions before we turn the gavel over to Karen. I don't see any. So Karen, the meeting is yours.
I saw Chris's hand.
Yeah, I was going to echo what Ann said, so I'll make a motion. A motion for what Ann said.
So is this, and how did you put it again? I had a different phrasing, but.
My recollection is like vote by acclamation. That may not be the, for the new vote by acclamation.
You could certainly move, well, I don't want to make this too complicated. Zoom makes it complicated because we do need a roll call vote. I don't see why we can't just call it a vote by acclamation for Karen Herrick as chair and leave it at that and then just do it by roll call. Is that okay, Chris?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a vote by acclamation to vote for Karen Herrick as chair. Again, I'll go alphabetically. Carlo?
No.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
And Ann?
Yes.
Okay, so the final vote for the minutes by acclamation will be 4 votes yes, 1 vote no. Now, Karen,
Okay.
it's all yours.
Okay. Thank you again to Anne, always being one of the ones to show us the nice way to do things. Appreciate that. And with that, I would like to open the nominations for the vice chair of the select board, and I'd like to nominate Anne Landry as vice chair. Are there any other nominations? Oh, Carlo. Okay, sorry, I'm new at this.
That's okay. I'd like to nominate myself.
Okay, so we have Ann Landry and Carlo Bacci nominated for the vice chair. Are there any other nominations? Okay, so if I follow Bob's lead, we will we'll do a roll call, and Bacci comes before Landry. So we'll take a vote for Carlo first. So
Karen, excuse me. Can I-
Karen, Mark,
Point of information. I think first we need to close nominations formally.
thanks. Okay, so let's close the nominations for the vice chair. Thank you, Mark. And actually, so is there any discussion that members might want to have? Okay.
Can I-
Oh, Mark, I'm sorry. Yep.
Sorry.
Music to me.
I have to get used to raising my hand. I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, waving's good.
I think that just speaking from last experience, as we kind of Ann and I worked together over the last year, I think that she would be an asset in this role, both in terms of continuity, but also just in terms of kind of how we can move forward. And I support Ann for that role.
Okay, is there any other discussion? And I apologize, just wave at me for now while I figure out how to do this. And I can't even see Chris. Okay, you're waving. Okay. Oh, wait, Anna's waving. Okay.
Anna's waving. I just wanted to thank you for the nomination, Karen, which I do accept the nomination, and thank you, Mark. It was a pleasure working with you last year. And I appreciate Carlo's willingness to step up as well. I know he did an admirable job over the last year, responding to residents promptly in his role as secretary, which I think is an important one, and would certainly support him if he'd be interested in retaining the role for the next year. I know that residents really valued his quick and helpful correspondence and acknowledgement, which I think is an perhaps overlooked at times, but really important job, because I know all of us really value communication. It's really vital to the work of the board.
thanks, Ann.
Great. Any other comments?
Sorry, I don't know if Karen or whoever can answer this. Do we do one at a time, Bob? Do we do vice chair, close it, and then secretary, or all at once?
We have nominations for vice chair right now, so we'll take care of that, and then we'll do secretary.
Okay.
So, okay. So if we're all set with comments, so may I have a roll call vote for our first candidate, Carlo Bacci, for the position of vice chair. And if I read up the top of the screen, so Carlo, how would you vote?
Yes.
Okay. And Mark?
No.
And Ann?
Yeah.
And Christopher?
Sorry, I think that people are misinterpreting point of information. We seem to be misinterpreting what's happening. So I thought this was this was voting for the vice chair. And
We have two candidates, so we were going to do two votes like we did for chair.
right,
And
so this is voting for Carlo to be the vice chair. So a yes vote would be yes for Carlo to be the vice chair. A no vote would be for Carlo not to be the vice chair.
Correct.
Right? Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So Caitlin, what votes did you have so far? You have Carlo?
I have Carlo, Mark, and Ann.
Okay. And
I need Chris and you.
okay, so Chris?
Yes.
Okay. And Karen, I'll vote no. Okay, so we can now vote for Ann Landry for vice chair of the select board. So if I do this again, okay, so, okay, I'll ask Carlo. Mark, I'll start with you. How would you like to vote? and Landry for vice chair. Yes. Okay. And Christopher
Yes.
and Carlo
No.
and Anne
Yes.
and Karen. Yes, for Anne Landry for vice chair. Thank you all. I would love to open nominations for secretary. I don't know how, Carlo, I do appreciate the effort you put in this past year. It's really good to be timely. I know people do appreciate it. I'm echoing Anne's comments. I believe that rotating is a good thing. So only in that vein, I would like to nominate Mark Doxer if he's willing to be the secretary this year. I know he would also do a fantastic job.
I will second that and nominate Mark as well.
Can I comment?
Late.
I'm certainly not saying no, but I echo Anne and Karen's point. I was raising my hand to hope to nominate Carlo as secretary.
So would both of you accept the nomination? Talk about that.
So has Carlo been nominated yet?
Oh, no, you did it. I thought that was your nomination.
Okay, yes, I would like to nominate Carlo.
Thank you. Okay. So again, we have Carl's nominated for secretary and Mark Doxer is nominated for secretary. And Bocce still comes first in the alphabet. Oh, is there any discussion on this?
Mark, you have the experience.
Oh, you have been secretary before. I wasn't sure. Okay.
I actually have been secretary before.
Okay, so you both have.
We could arm wrestle.
I know. Are there any interesting
Virtual.
nurses to that? That'd be great. Love to do that. Okay.
I would be interested to hear if Carlo, would you do you accept the nomination?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not. I think it's good to mix things up, honestly. But I'm not gonna. I've enjoyed being secretary. I'm not gonna refuse the nomination, but I think it's good to rotate, like Karen said. I don't know if Chris has any interest. I don't know if nominations are closed, but Chris is an IT guy, so he definitely has the qualifications, more so than I do. But yeah, I was quick on the draw. I tried to respond as quickly as I could to people, but that's only half of it, obviously. But I like to, personally, I like to mix things up. That's all. I have nothing against it, but I appreciate Mark nominating me. Thank you.
I would do it if neither one of them wanted to, only because I'm the new guy here, and everybody else has more experience than I do in that regard.
Is it still time to formally nominate? Can I nominate Chris?
I think we can. Does anybody have any objections? Okay. So we have 3 nominations. Mark, did you say you would accept the nomination?
I would if Carlo didn't want to do it.
Not making this easy.
I'll change my mind.
Okay, are we ready to do 3 recall votes and see who will be fortunate enough to be the select board chair for the next year?
The secretary.
Secretary, sorry.
I'll be the chair.
Okay, sorry. Let's focus on secretary. Okay, once again, Bocce comes at the beginning of the alphabet. So, okay, so let's do a roll call vote. Who would like to vote for Carlo Bocce to be the secretary of the select board? And Carlo, you are first on my screen.
No.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
No.
Okay, Anne?
I was going to say yes, and now I'm very confused because Carlos said no.
Okay, he said no. He did say no.
I'm going to say no out of respect for Carlos saying no, although my intention was to say yes because that was my thinking. So no.
Okay, and Karen will also say no because he said no. Okay, good thing Caitlin's here. We're taking a lot of votes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, E comes before H, so Doxer. So we could now vote on Mark Doxer to be our select board secretary. Carlo, how would you like to vote?
Oh, God, this is, what do I do now? Nothing personal, Mark, no.
Okay, Mark, how would you like to vote?
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Anne,
Yes.
and myself, we're voting for Mark. I would vote yes.
Great. Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you. So
We still have to do Chris, right?
should we just do Chris as well? Okay, okay, so finally we have Chris Haley. Let's take a roll call vote and determine vote for Chris or not to be the secretary. So Carlo
Yes.
and Mark
No.
and Chris
Yes.
and Ian
No.
and Karen, no. But thank you for everybody for stepping up.
Thank you for everyone.
Thanks,
So
everybody.
everyone stepped
Nothing
up
personal,
first.
Chris, I just didn't want to
Something.
get to an even runoff.
The candidate doesn't vote for himself. He's like, okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, we've got that done. Wonderful. Okay, so since I didn't know if I'd be the chair, Bob, I'm going to ask you to help me tonight if you could. I believe the
Sure.
next item is the land on Haverhill Street. Is that correct?
Liaison reports.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Who would like to go first with liaison reports? Okay, I see Carlo.
Thank you. So I attended CPDC and a few things happened of note. So the contractor and the attorney came back on 18 Lowell Street. That's that small parcel entrance into the municipal lot that I spoke about before. They came back with a lot of changes. They eliminated the apartment on the first floor. They're going to install an elevator, so that means the whole first floor will be commercial with the patio. And to make a long story short, they're going to be coming before the board to request, as far as I know, they're going to come before the board to request to eliminate 2 parking spots to give them a right of way into their underground garage. So, Bob?
Yeah, Karen, if I might, CPDC, I believe, next meets on May 4th, which is also a select board meeting. So May 18th is the date that they prefer you to schedule this. So, you know, I'll certainly talk to Karen and work on that, but just so you know, May 18th is, you know, a preferred date for that request.
Yeah, so that will be coming in front of us to discuss that, and the CPDC has kind of thrown it on us, not in a bad way, but that's a linchpin to the project, obviously, is they cannot gain access otherwise to that property for parking, which would be 9 spots underneath the building. And the water tank has now been, again, anyone can correct me if I'm wrong, has been approved by the CPDC with all the conditions and is moving on. And there were some other minor things, nothing major, but those are the 2 major points. I believe Recreation Committee did not meet. And that's all I attended in person. Thank you.
Mark?
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Madam Chair. So I attended the Council on Aging meeting, and the focus there, two things. One is obviously, as was mentioned before, how to open the center safely, how to get people able to get back in, thinking about how to do that, and also some discussions about how to possibly utilize the outside space better, perhaps with a tent or an awning or something like that. And that's being pursued because that may allow for more people to gather. So that's very, very, very high priority from their point of view. The other point I want to bring up about the council was they want to have a working group to talk a little bit more about the needs of the community, both for programming and for space going forward. And that was in response to our discussion and starting to think more about senior center needs going forward. So they want to establish a working group to do that if they can. One other thing, I got a note today from the superintendent, I think more in my past chair role than it was my liaison role to the school committee, but the Mass School Building Association, I missed one of the initials, MSBA, maybe I got it, Mass School Building Association, is now opening up their process again and asking for people to approach them with projects and bids. And I guess the school department will be putting that together, and it will require for this process, I believe, both the school committee and the select board to sign off on the application. So that will be coming around to the select board soon. I don't know more precisely. This just came across today. And that is, oh, sorry. And then the third thing related to, so we have a meeting on Thursday, which is a joint meeting with the school committee and the finance committee, which is something that we had talked about setting up, related to a discussion of future, I'm just getting my words right, future space and building needs, both short-term and long-term. And so that is this Thursday. That's 7 o'clock. So we're posted for that. Thank you.
Ian?
I received some information from the last Human Relations Advisory Committee meeting. They passed a motion that is directed at us. It is actually about regarding something that is really no longer on the select board's plate, but is before town meeting. But I do feel the motion was directed at us. So to share it with you all now, Reading's Human Relations Advisory Committee strongly advises Reading Select Board to support the library's requested budget at the upcoming April town meeting, which includes the new Division of Equity and Social Justice. And the full text of the motion included the select board was the town body that initiated the process to investigate more efficient organizational structures to support the town's needs. There's overwhelming data from current and past 8-track members who documented the shortcoming of the current 8-track structure. The select board, with input from legal and town manager, led the work of the ad hoc human rights committee, which produced after 18 months a comprehensive recommendation. A total of 5 select board members over this time period participated as co-chairs of the ad hoc committee. Ultimately, this latest and current select board members on the committee agreed with the recommendation at the time the ad hoc group was dissolved in December 20. Racial and social justice is a serious issue impacting all members of Reading's community. And sadly, as we've seen in the recent news, it has life or death consequences. Not addressing it as such is not fulfilling the board's role as chief elected officials for the town of Reading. Just like with our CASA, it is a fact that a full-time resource is needed to provide full-time focused professional leadership and expertise for an effective and consistent experience across the town. So that we are in receipt of from the Human Relations Advisory Committee. I also wanted to share that the Board of Library Trustees adopted a statement of AAPI solidarity in response to continued violence and hate against the Asian American Pacific Islander community at their April 12th, 2021 meeting. Thank you.
Great. Okay, thank you. So Chris, I think next time you will have some liaison assignments, or very soon. For my part, I did, that was a great summary of the CPDC meeting, Carlo, I did watch that as well. And so I haven't attended any climate advisory meetings, but there have been a number of items that have gone back and forth that I thought I'd share with you. The committee had an opportunity to attend a virtual green building practices seminar with some experts from Germany, and I believe some staff members might have participated as well. And actually that will be recorded, so I think if anybody else wanted to watch that. And then we also had some news from the State House, and everyone was pretty excited that you all knew that they revoked the permit for the Palmer biomass plant, but they also did not approve the proposed regulations. And going forward, let me want to say this correctly, they will not allow biomass plants near environmental justice populations. Springfield was an environmental justice population. So that's, that's a very strong message coming from the State House. So that was exciting news regarding the Climate Advisory Committee. So that's good. That's all I have. Okay, Bob, what should we do next?
I'll give a brief town manager's report. First, let me share my screen if I might. So here's the old ball yard where you used to meet. I've shown you the least damaged portion. This is what's next door, the FinCom meeting room, not even allowed inside. You're not even to take a picture. We had a leak up on the 3rd floor in the women's room on a Friday night. It was just a very small valve that let go, about 1/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch in diameter. One would not suppose that would have a lot of water. It went on unchecked for about 10 hours till I happened to come in Saturday morning. And again, that was on the 3rd floor, and it just decimated everything underneath. So this is an office underneath the FinCom meeting room. It just wiped it out, and there's another office next door. Extensive ceiling damage, electrical damage. You can see in the back behind the file cabinet, some walls had to be cut open just to see the damage. So this is hundreds of thousands of dollars that we surprised Maya with. Good thing to have insurance. And all these rooms, again, I'm told as an estimate, are out of action probably until July. Some of it, they've just been doing insurance work so far, and obviously taking care of the damage. The only good news to come out of this, if there is any, is we discovered a new technology where this should not happen again. We shared it with Maya, and they were very excited, and they're going to ask all the other communities to adopt it. It's a gadget that will send you a smartphone message when your building is using too much water. So we had known about smart meters. We've beta tested those in houses. We never thought about beta testing them in an office building, but the device we discovered is even better than that. So, at least a lesson learned. And again, that was about 10 hours worth of water damage that you saw. Could have been far worse if it had been 3 days worth. So hopefully, it's a 100-year-old building. I guess these things happen. Importantly, MassDOT has scheduled a virtual public information session on Main Street on the so-called road diet on May 11th. We don't have any more information, but when we do, we'll certainly publicize it and share information with the board. There are 3 RFPs to be issued with respect to the cell tower water tank project. Tomorrow, the first will be published in the Central Register. It's somewhat of a complicated legal process with very regimented steps that take weeks of preparation. The first RFP tomorrow will be for the temporary cell tower. Once it's published in the morning, we'll share it with the neighbors. It's about a 30 or 35-page document so that the abutters have a copy and anyone else that wants it. The second RFP will be issued a few weeks after that in May. That will be for the water tank itself. And finally, the third RFP would be planned to be in early June, and that'll be for carriers to come back on the water tank when it's finished. So those 3 RFPs would finish us up. We'll hope for better results this time. Tomorrow morning, Laura Gem is going to send out information to town meeting members, including a link to the precinct meetings. She's already advised them when they're being held. Half the precincts, 5 through 8, are meeting Wednesday night. Precincts 1 through 4 are meeting Friday night. And again, links will be sent out tomorrow morning in addition to some motions and other documents. There is a mock town meeting that is scheduled for 6 o'clock next Monday on the 26th. This has also been communicated to town meeting members, but a link has not yet been sent out. That link may not be sent out until next Monday. We'll see how the precinct meetings go. The town clerk reports that she has a couple of instructional motions and an amendment that will, be sent out to town meeting members again tomorrow morning. And I will provide the regular set of motions for both the special and annual town meetings. All town meeting members have either picked up a warrant report or stated that they will use an electronic version. So that's terrific. Not to go too far afield, but when the Charter Committee met almost 10 years ago now, one topic was discussing reversing the order of elections in town meeting and being a normal town. But the members of the Charter Committee voted to still be an abnormal town and be Reading. This is very unusual to have 1/3 of your town meeting elected before a budget meeting, before an annual town meeting, and elected officials such as yourselves. And in addition to that, it really puts a stress on the town clerk's office to certify an election and then to prepare for town meeting in a very short amount of time. So I really appreciate Laura and her staff, especially during a pandemic. It was a lot easier in June when it wasn't so squished together. They did a really good job. Unfortunately, the flood hit after the elections. Again, sympathies to our friends at Meadowbrook. They will be visiting you at your next meeting on May 4th. They have revised their request. They will not be occupying the clubhouse anytime soon, but they do have 2 requests, not 3 for the board. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Sorry, Bob, I had asked, you thought you might have some information on the methane gas leak project, where we are on that, or?
My recollection was, I think the board either formally or informally asked David Zeke and Andy Friedman to sort of map out next steps. The work that town meeting had authorized and suggested is completed. Andy and David suggested some ways we could publicize that on the town website and on social media. We've done that. So Karen, at this time, I don't know what any next steps would be, because we completed again the mission the town meeting gave us, and I have not heard of anything, further from David or from Andy.
Yeah, my recollection is that last fall, you were just going to wait for the second part of the analysis to be done by our consultant. And I think this is the first update we've had since then. So if I'm hearing you correctly, then the consultant has finished.
I'm sorry, Karen, I really can't hear you. What was the last part?
So if I'm hearing you correctly, and you're right, we really haven't done anything this calendar year. So what I'm hearing correctly is that, or if I'm hearing you correctly, the consultant is finished doing what he needed to do, and now we have data, and now we can decide what the next steps are.
Yes, he finished his work as he had hoped to before December, and we shared that with David and Andy, and they just showed us how to share that with the community. So that part is all complete. So now it could be, up to a group of people to determine next steps, for instance.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. What's next on our? Oh, Anne, yeah.
Bob, I was curious if we should maybe expect for the next town manager report, the rolling out of the, the tracking system that we contemplated in the communications policy, with sort of where things are with resident inquiries.
Yeah, that's fine. The decline in resident inquiries has been sharp over the last few months.
Yeah.
As you know.
Mm-hmm.
So sure, we can show you what we have.
Yeah, a short list is great. That actually seems a lot more manageable. Great.
Okay. All right, so we get back to the agenda. Where are we? I don't, let me open the agenda up here so I can.
Karen, I don't believe you had any public comment. Anything come in since, Caitlin?
No,
Nope.
okay, nothing has hit my.
There are no applications for outdoor dining. There have been 6 now for dining on private land, which is under CPDC. So it's not that nothing's happening, but nothing for this board's purview. And that brings us up to the 8 o'clock hearing for a change of officer for Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza. If the secretary would read that hearing notice. Do you need it, Mark?
Sorry, I had myself muted. If you wouldn't mind, unless I've got my packet open, unless it was right there.
14 in the packet.
I've got it actually. Sorry, I've got it right here, Bob. No worries. To the inhabitants of the town of Reading, please take notice that the Select Board of the town of Reading will hold a public hearing on April 20th, 2021 at 8 p.m. remotely on Zoom to act on a change of officer beneficial interest application for an annual all alcohol restaurant license for Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza of Reading LLC, doing business as Anthony's Coal-Fired Pizza at 48 Walkersbrook Drive, Reading, Massachusetts. A copy of the proposed documents regarding this topic will be in the Select Board packet on the website at www.readingma.gov. All interested parties are invited to attend the hearing or may submit their comments in writing or by email prior to 4 p.m. on April 20th, 2021 to townmanager@ci.reading.ma.us by order of Robert W. LaLasher, Town Manager.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you. I don't believe the applicant is here tonight, so I can give a little bit of background, especially for Chris as a new member. Liquor license hearings have incredible sizes to the packet, as you've seen. Let me share a quick screen. This is, to me, the most important page. The first thing I go to is whether the police department has investigated the request and found any problems with it. So in this case, Lieutenant Detective Abadi at the very bottom, I find no reason why the change of officer beneficial interest application should not go forward. So that's always good news. That's usually the case, but that's usually the first thing you look for. The rest of it I'll say is boilerplate. This is the simplest type of liquor license application you get. It's simply substituting in A for B, one manager for another at an establishment that's already been approved. And the track record of when a request comes in and an establishment has had some violations or some questions, that's certainly something we bring to the board for a discussion. This has not. This is a good operation. We've had no problems with them. So if you will, this is the simplest kind of application the board sees for liquor licenses, and the town and town staff know no reason it should not go forward. Typically, or sometimes at least, an applicant will come forward and tell you a little bit of story. The board then often welcomes them to the town, so I'll do that if we catch up to them later with the results of your vote.
Great, thank you, Bob. Yeah, Chris, this was a relief for me to learn my first year that we can look in. If everything is boilerplate, as Bob says, then we don't have to read this that closely because we are relying on staff, and they do a pretty good job.
And we're not allowed not to have it in the packet.
Yeah, Mark.
Thanks, Karen. I think one of the things that we've done that I would hope the board would want to continue is, in addition to welcoming new managers, is to also reinforce to them as the licensing authority how important it is to us that they work carefully in making sure that underage folks are not allowed to get alcohol. So I would maybe ask if we could invite the new managers to join us at an upcoming session. I see Caitlin's hand. Are they here?
Yeah, so I know it says change of manager / beneficial interest. It's because that's what the application's called, but this is actually just a change of beneficial interest. So it's not the daily manager that's changing.
Great.
Usually when managers change, I ask if they'll come. So
They do usually.
Great, thank you. Okay, I pull back everything I said. I just want to have everybody reinforce that it's very important to us as a board, as the licensing authority for liquor, that's how it works, that we're very interested in their helping us. Thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mark. Are there any other comments from board members or questions? Okay, so would we next close the public hearing? Okay,
So do we take a motion to close it? Is that how we do it? Sorry, I didn't mean to butt in. I'm sorry.
no, thank you. Okay, so I would love to entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, so, so we're gonna vote. Do we have a motion for this?
Now, first you vote to close the hearing
Oh, okay.
by a roll call, and then you'll have another motion.
Okay, so as I see you, I'll take your vote to close the meeting. Mark,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
Anne.
Yes, voting to close the hearing.
Karen,
Correct.
Correct, thank you. And Karen voting yes to close the hearing.
I am working on the motions. I'm waiting for my my Microsoft Word to open. Sorry. It's on its way. There it is. Okay, move to approve the change of officer / beneficial interest application for an annual restaurant all alcohol license for Anthony's Coal Fired Pizza of Reading LLC, doing business as Anthony's Coal Fired Pizza at 48 Walkersbrook Drive, Reading, Massachusetts.
Can I have a second?
Second.
I think that was Carlo. Okay, so let's do a roll call vote as I see you.
Karen, sorry, excuse me just for a sec. Process procedure. Then see if there's any other discussion first.
Thank you.
And then if not, then go to the roll call.
Okay, is there any discussion on the motion before us? Okay, not appearing. Okay, Mark,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Anne?
Yes.
And Carlo?
Yes.
And Karen, yes. Perfect. Now I think we can talk about approve Chimney Hill acceptance, 102 Haverhill Street. So we are gonna vote to accept this and
Caitlin, is Chuck, Julie, or Bill here?
Yes, I
Chuck.
just let Chuck in. Yep.
No attorneys?
Ivry is here.
No, Bill, I'm not sure if Bill was going to show up, so that's fine. Chuck, I suggest Chuck take it away and explain the issue. It's quite a simple one.
So Mark Hall has a property at 102 rear Haverhill Street, and he is going to transfer that land to the Conservation Commission with the permission of the Select Board. So this piece of land the open space will add an important piece of land to the Timberneck Swamp Conservation Area. The land's approximately 12.8 acres, and it's located between Haverhill Street and Libby Ave. And most of it's forested broadleaf swamp. So there's not much up and dry area between those 2 points. The Conservation Commission recommends that the land transfer for several reasons. In addition to the parcel will add significant increase the size to the Timberneck Swamp Conservation Area. It will in turn increase the land and the wildlife corridor that stretches between Haverhill Street and Charles Street. The land transfer would also help protect Walkersbrook, which is an important town and regional water source. Walkersbrook is part of the Saugus River watershed. Most important, it would preserve and make available to the public parcel of open space land and add to the town's open space inventory. So again, Timberneck Swamp is in the center of town just about. It's not visited a lot by many people. I think the abutters that live around Tivernock Swamp appreciate that area, and to preserve this section of open space, mostly because it's connected to a piece of open space that already exists, makes a lot of sense. So I hope it's favorable by the select board. Thank you. Any questions? I'd feel free to ask.
Select board members, any comments, questions for Chuck? Let's see. I don't see anything. I think this is great. This is wonderful that for the various staff involved in negotiating this with the property owner. I think this is a wonderful addition to the town, and it's always nice to have open space, I think.
Bob's hand is up, Karen.
So, who's Carlo? Whose hands?
Bob.
Oh, sorry, Bob, go ahead.
I like how Mark pointed at me like we're on Hollywood Squares, for anyone old enough to know what
My
that means.
gallery there. That's better. Okay, sorry.
It kind of goes without saying, but I just want to thank Mark Hall. You know, it was part of a development agreement. I get that, but it's still a very generous contribution, you know, to give 12 acres to the town. And Chuck, there's only one parcel now that's kind of not under the control of Conscom. It's kind of sandwiched now by land if this goes through. Is that right?
There's two parcels in Tivernock Swamp that are privately owned.
Okay.
There is that that one parcel that you're talking about. That would be an interesting parcel to pick up.
Is that this one right here is still private? I don't know if you can see it, Chuck.
I think so. I believe.
I think this is the one in question, unless I've got it upside down. This is the alphabet.
I actually believe
here.
it's below all that. That's all one parcel there.
Okay.
And it's right there where your cursor is now.
Right there. Okay.
Yeah. And it's a narrow slice of land. It's and you know, picking up open space that's isolated and small, and you know, sometimes that doesn't make any sense, but to add to something that we already have and to increase the habitat value on a piece of land that's probably unbuildable because it's broadly, you know, swamp, you know, I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't think there's much controversy with something like this. The neighbors weighed in at all of our meetings. They were wondering about access to that area, and there was no plans to do anything other than to pick up the land. And I echo what Bob said about Mark. It was a very generous offer. You know, Mark has worked in this town. Mark Hall has worked in this town a lot, and I think he's just one of the more remarkable builders that we have working here. So we appreciate this as Conservation Commission, and if it goes through, I'm sure the town will appreciate it also.
Ann?
Just wanted to echo Bob and Chuck's comments, directing gratitude and appreciation to Mark Hall. Thank you.
Chuck, are there any trails through there?
So the only trail, there's a trail that you can find off of Charles Street, almost across from the first entrance to the Charles Street Cemetery. And there's a trail between Libby and Belmont, but that trail was put in because of the redundant water main line that went through before. So that's an easement, an access area, and it's supposed to not have any trees on it or whatnot. So there are no official trails through that area, but the Charles Street to the Libby Belmont access would create a trail. And you know, there's a lot of open space. It's hard to get, you know, it'd almost take another division here in Reading to create trails everywhere. You know, no one wants open space that they can't access. This has opportunity, not in the area that's being donated tonight, but that you can get in there, and it's not flooded all the time.
Okay,
In the wintertime, you can walk through it. In the summer, you could walk through it. It's kind of, it's dry enough just to hike through. It's not standing water for the most part.
Thanks, great. Any other questions? Okay, no. So would we like to vote on whether we would accept this parcel then? Would that be the next appropriate step?
Yep, I have a motion I can read if you're ready, Karen.
That would be wonderful.
Motion to accept the grant of land as described in the quitclaim deed and shown on Plan 844 of 2020 from Chimney Hill Real Estate LLC to the town of Reading, acting by and through its Conservation Commission pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 8C.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Chris. Okay, and now we'll have a vote on the motion before us. As I see you, Carlo,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Anne.
Yes.
And Karen, yes. Thank you. That's great. Chuck, thank you for coming.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yes, it's great. It's
Yeah.
a really great resource. All right. Okay. So next on our agenda, these are the personnel policies.
Cedar Glen.
Peter Glenn, sorry. Great. Okay.
So we have two guests, I hope, that are joining us that'll do a good job explaining this compared to what I would do. Town council will kind of lead the town side, and then Julie Hancock's stand will speak for the housing authority.
Welcome, Ivria.
Hello, how are you guys tonight?
Hey, I'm actually trying to see, are we on schedule? How are we doing?
We're perfect.
Doing a great job.
So I think maybe it makes sense for Julie to start off with the request, and then Ivria to sort of frame what can be a pretty complex issue for the board's consideration.
Yes.
Sure, I'm happy to. Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Sandy from Nixon Peabody. So thank you guys all for taking some time to hear our request tonight. I represent the owner of Cedar Glen, located in Reading, and we are in the process of doing a refinancing with Mass Housing and with HUD. And HUD requires that there cannot be a right of first refusal on the property, or if there is, that has to be subordinated to the HUD mortgage and regulatory agreement. So the comprehensive permit right now currently includes a right of first refusal. So our request was that either the comprehensive permit gets amended to remove the right of first refusal, or that we enter into a subordination agreement to subordinate it.
Great. So I think Julie did a great job. That's exactly the ask, and I outlined that in the letter to the board. I think, from this board, obviously this board doesn't have the authority to amend the comprehensive permit. So if the board decides that they don't want to enter into the subordination agreement, then the matter would be transferred to the ZBA to consider an amendment to the comprehensive permit, as Julie has outlined. In terms of the subordination agreement, I think the ultimate question for this board is, what does that mean on a practical level? Do these units stay affordable? And as I outlined in the letter, unlike other 40B projects or projects that are permitted pursuant to 40B, which allows more dense housing if there's affordable units within the structure, there isn't a recorded affordable housing restriction that exists in perpetuity. But that being said, there are other restrictions that exist currently on the property that ensure, at least until 2081, that the units remain affordable. And Julie can go into more detail if you have specific questions, but as outlined, there's a regulatory tax agreement with DHCD that's recorded. And then there will be a new agreement that the property owner will have to execute with HUD that will guarantee that this property remains affordable, at least 113 units of the 114. And then in 2010, when the town waived its right of first refusal when the property was acquired by Cedar Glen, there was a recording that was made in which for 60 years, the property owner would continue to execute agreements with HUD, provided that those agreements were on similar economic terms, requiring the units to remain affordable. So I think the practical question is, is there a perpetual affordable housing restriction on these units? The answer to that is no, but there are a lot of regulatory agreements right now that do, at least for the near future, require these units to remain affordable. And I think I just want to point, one thing that's important to note is all units are rented. So all 114 units are on your SHI, but even more unique, I would say, is that all 114 units right now are actually being rented out as affordable units. So other properties, they can have the 25% affordable, but if they're rented, all of the units in the building count towards your SHI, but some of them may be market rate units. In this case, all of the units are actually being rented out to affordable tenant or affordable housing qualified tenants. Aaron, I think you might be muted.
Okay, thank you, Carlo.
Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Julie. So from what I read and what you described, it doesn't seem to be too many downsides, or I know it's not in perpetuity, like you said, but by us doing this, it's not going to affect the town and the affordable housing potentially until, you said, 2081?
Correct. I think it's a policy decision for the board to make.
Okay. And this could come up again, obviously, for another refinancing, or they sell the property and anything else.
Julie, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It could come up again if we were to do another refinancing, because if you did the subordination agreement, it would just be for this close, and you'd be subordinating just to the HUD and mass housing regulatory agreement and mortgage.
Just for this loan, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Mark?
Thanks, Karen. So one area that I think is worth pursuing a little bit further, and maybe Julie, you can address this one. The one caveat to the structure is that if Cedar Glen were to declare bankruptcy, basically, I think what happens is that HUD would then kind of take control of the property, and we would forfeit our right of first refusal. It would disappear. So one of the questions I have is just, we as a board don't necessarily understand the financial condition of Cedar Glen. And I'm wondering if that's something that could be shared with us, just some kind of a reassurance as to its current financial condition. The loan is pretty substantial, I think, that HUD's going through, right? Is it $28 million or something?
Yep. So the loan is just over $28 million. My understanding is that the property is doing well, but the $28 million, I know that they're doing a critical needs assessment to determine any kind of upgrades or improvements that need to be done at the property, which I think will really benefit the tenants. But, if there's any more specifics with financials that you need, I can certainly ask my client to provide anything. But my understanding is that, the project is in great shape. And, these are just kind of typical things that would come up in a CNA. There's no, in HUD's review of the project, there's no, major issues that absolutely critical needs that have to be addressed. It's, just things that come up in a CNA.
So it's great that they're improving the building. Absolutely. I love that. I'm that one piece, but Avery, it looks like you had a comment.
Oh, I just wanted to expand a bit on your point, Mark, that you're correct. There is a term in the subordination agreement that if HUD was to take ownership of the property, the town's right of first refusal would terminate. but there is the recorded waiver document from 2010, and that does run with the successors and assigns. So again, it is only for 60 years, but at least for that period of time, if there were to be a new property owner, they would be subject to that recorded restriction.
Okay, thank you. I'm satisfied with that.
Other questions? Chris?
If my company does work for the Reading Housing Authority, is this an instance where I would have to abstain from voting on this, Ivrea? Or should I? regardless?
Yeah, Chris, in this, you should sustain.
Thank you.
So Chris, did you need to, are you formally saying that that is the case? Or are you just saying a what if?
No, I would have to abstain.
Okay, so you are gonna, gotcha. Thank you. And, Anne.
Is there any way to quantify a value of the right of first refusal? Or is it more of thinking about whether there would be ever a situation we would anticipate for the duration of this projected, refinancing where we would want to exercise it?
That's a great question, Anne. I think when I think of right of first refusals held by municipalities, the one that comes to mind most frequently is with chapter land. So land that the town decides to give a break on taxation, provided that the property owner uses it for open space or other conservation purposes. So the reason the town holds a right of first refusal in that case is so that if the property is going to be converted to residential or commercial use, the town can kind of step in and say, no, we really want this to be maintained as conservation land, and we've been giving you a tax break for these past couple of years, so we're going to acquire it. So it's more of a policy thing than there's an actual quantifiable value there. It's very unique in my experience. Maybe Julie has more. I can only think of a few cases where I've seen it in the affordable housing context, and I think, to be honest, it's probably that it's the older comprehensive permits, the older 40B permits where this right of first refusal even exists. Modern comprehensive permits have recorded restrictions with them. So I'm not exactly sure how we would go about putting a monetary value on it. It's something we could definitely think about, but it's more of a policy position. We want these units to stay affordable, so we have this right of first refusal to ensure that that happens in the case the property changes hands, the same as with the conservation land. We have the right of first refusal to make sure that land stays in open space use.
Thank you, Ivrea.
Thank you, Karen. Yeah, to Ivrea's point, I remember talking to my predecessor, Peter, and this was done before affordable housing was a thing, I guess you'd say. So much like we have our own affordable housing trust fund language that is renewed annually at town meeting, which is very unusual. This property was also very unusual. And the town, when it permitted it, as Ivrea, kind of guessed, she's correct, it wanted to maintain the affordability in case the developer went under. So it wanted to be able to buy the land back in case this didn't work out. Again, at the time, there was no such thing as in perpetuity. And at least from, again, from Peter's recollection, this was the only parcel in town that did not have in perpetuity, as a condition. So, it was old fashioned, I guess you'd summarize, for the reasons that Ivrea mentioned, that just protect the town's affordable housing stock. Would you want to buy it now for that reason? I don't know how the town could afford it, frankly, as a practical matter.
I had a quick question. Ivrea, do you have a sense, I'm curious about the 60-year term of the item that was negotiated in 2010, and why not 100 years? Any insight into that?
I don't have any insight. Bob, do you have any understanding of why?
I was even here, but I don't remember that ever being discussed. It sounded like from the discussion, 60 was the maximum for some reason. I don't know if that was a practical reason or a legal reason, though.
This does sound like a very, and so just to be clear, and this question is for Julie on the nature of this. So it's a privately owned property, and everything are the units priced at affordable, what's considered affordable market rates, or residents have housing vouchers that they're allowed to use? Like, this does seem like a different type of housing.
Yep, so most of the units are covered. I think it's 113 of the 114 units are covered by a HUD Section 8 contract. So HUD sets the rents, and they're all covered under that Section 8 contract.
Okay, did not know that. Okay, thank you.
Yep. And so that Section 8 contract is what Ivrea was referencing in the 2010 agreement, is that the property owner is required to continue to renew. So Section 8 contracts can only be for a term of 20 years. So we're entering into a new one at this closing, but the property owner is obligated to continue to renew the Section 8 contracts when it comes to an end throughout the remainder of those 60 years.
And then Julie, I believe that the last unit, the other unit, is subject to the DHCD tax credit agreement, which is recorded.
Yep, exactly. It's a tax credit unit. And so under the tax credit regulatory agreement with DHCD, all 114 units are required to remain rentable to low-income tenants, which is 60% of AMI or below.
Mark?
Thanks, Karen. So if, I'm assuming that, is this a 30-year HUD loan? What's the term of the loan?
The loan will be, I believe, 35 years.
35 years. So if there's a desire to get another loan to refurbish the property again, you come back basically before the board again at that point, because we would be back to, I guess, having the discussion. Is that correct?
Yeah, so if you chose to go the route of entering into the subordination agreement, then yes, we would come back before the board for another refinancing, because the subordination agreement would just cover that specific loan.
Got it. Okay, so conceivably at that point, there could be a discussion, depending on how far along we are toward the 60 years, about if, if that makes sense, or if we want to have further discussion about it. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So quick question, Bob, is this property on the tax rolls, or is it also in terms of Mark's question about the viability and keeping it viable? Are they getting tax incentives from us?
Oh yeah, they're taxable. I couldn't tell you how much taxes they pay, but yeah, it's taxable.
I mean, I feel like, Ivrea, thank you for laying that all out. I thought you did a great job. If you're going to be working with someone, HUD seems like the right people to be working with. So I think I'm comfortable moving forward with your recommendation that we subordinate it. Do the other board members feel the same? Okay. So may I entertain a motion?
Can I ask a question? I'm not sure I have an exact motion here. Is it a motion that's required, or is it, what do we need to do here?
Yeah, I would suggest that the select board move to authorize Bob to sign the subordination agreement.
So I'll make a motion to authorize Bob to sign the subordination agreement.
Second.
Chair allowed to second. Thank you, Carmen. Is the chair allowed to second, like ever?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Carmen. Okay, are we ready for the vote? Okay, as I see you, Carlo?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
I abstain.
Oh, thank you. Anne?
Oh, excuse me. Yes.
Yes, thank you. And Karen, yes. Thank you both. Good to know this is locked up for a long time, and good luck with the loan.
I just have one question. Julie, do you need a certified copy of the vote for HUD?
I will.
Okay. Great. We can get that to you.
And Ivrea, quick question, is it Bob signing on behalf of the select board, is that correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Are there any more questions or should I drop off?
I think we're good. Thank you. I'm glad to
Thank
know
you
that.
so much.
Thanks, Julie.
Reminding us about this property.
Thank you.
Okay, I see Sean is on the call. Okay, and someone else is connecting. Matt, okay.
The whole HR team is connecting.
Next time with you, and of course it's Zoom, so hi.
Hi.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking some time out of your very busy schedules to listen to our human resources update for you. I know that you're looking forward to the personnel policy update, which will be towards the end of this presentation. But I would be remiss to not just go over how the past year has affected Reading, especially the Human Resources Division during all of the craziness of the pandemic. So I am going to share I think I can share my screen, right, Caitlin? If it lets me, let's see. I'm going to just pull up.
I can also share it if it helps.
As long as I can click this. Can everyone see this?
Yep.
All right, great. Then I think I'm good, Bob. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So anyways, thank you again so much for that. So I'd like to just start off and just give a quick overview. So this is what our division is charged with doing. So we service all of the town employees, schools, RMLD, and the town for benefits. We handle all the personnel for the school, for the town employees. So we're a pretty busy office. We have a lot going on, and COVID certainly has presented us with various challenges that we'll get into in a minute. But before that, I just wanted to go over the people behind the works here. So on this call, we have Annabella Batista. She is our human resources generalist. Annabella joined the town back in 2019 in a benefits role. And then in November of 2019, she was promoted to her current title. And she handles a lot of the personnel transactions that we have going through our office, interviews, background checks, all sorts of fun stuff. And then last fall, Avantika Mehta joined us. She is our senior administrative assistant. We got her pretty much fresh out of college. She had a little bit of municipal experience with an internship behind her, so she kind of jumped in at a crazy time, but has done well with us, and we're happy to have her. And then myself, I was hired. I'm going to put that in quotations because I have a footnote. I was hired last April, and I was originally here from February of 2016 to October of 2019. We call it my 6-month vacation when I tried being an assistant town administrator elsewhere, and I realized I missed Reading so much I decided to come back during a pandemic. So with that, I'm going to get into just the past year. So when I had first come back to Reading last year, I just like to describe it as almost a war zone. You had people that were just kind of scarce. You had people working from home, people hiding behind, just the shields to try to stay away from everyone. No one really knew what was going on. We were dealing with a lot of changing regulations from the federal government, the state government, our local board of health. And just as we would seem to get a good grasp on things, they would change it the next day, as we all know, which made it a little difficult as the calls would be pouring in for how to handle a personnel situation, many of them that had never occurred before. So we had some interesting modifications to make to our work life. So it's just Annabella and I at that time. So we were down a person, and we were meeting with people on Zoom. We were meeting with people outside, constantly on the phone, sending emails. And we just did our best to try to engage with staff as best possible, because during that time, they really were just relying on us for a lot of answers that we didn't always have, but we did the best we could. We weren't able to get as much training done, and we were playing a lot of catch up on work, unprecedented workloads, but we made it through that crazy time. Some of the things that we were able to do that I thought were worth highlighting. We were really able to continue most of our operations. Despite some challenges, we were able to start hiring again in the summer, and that was only delayed because of our facility that we use for pre-employment appointments. They were just closed. So once we did that, we were sort of up and running, and that's when Avantika joined us in the fall. Since July of 2020, we've hired or promoted 35 people and counting. I think I had another one today that I was working on. And by September, when we were fully staffed, we were really excited about that because it was the first time in 11 months that HR was sort of up and running again. And then during all that craziness, we actually did a mini open enrollment for our retirees, where Avantika, only being about 2 months on the job, processed over 100 enrollments with Maya. So we were very grateful to have her on board for that, especially Annabella, because she got to take a break from the benefits. So some ongoing goals that we have, because we're not out of the woods yet. We're still going to do our best to deliver customer service as best possible. It's constantly with evolving methods of doing things, but as the vaccines start to go out and we start to just get better and better news, we're just hopeful that we have better days ahead of us. We're looking for new and innovative ways to reach out to staff. One of the ideas that one of our staff members had was to really try to focus on more employee like good news and newsletters and whatnot, something we hope to do in the future. And then we also look forward to really ramping up our training again once we're able to kind of get ahead of this thing, whether it be virtual or in person, we'll see. And then obviously that leads into our personnel policy revision that we're working on. So with that, just to give you an idea, so when the town manager had mentioned it to me, he had asked me to put together a group. So we have 12 individuals on and off in these meetings that we have. We have some good representation from various departments in town, union and non-union alike, and department heads. So we have a lot of different ideas that are flowing through, giving us a different idea, people coming from different backgrounds, different industries. It's been, there's been some very fruitful conversations. And our charge was simply put to have a revised version of our 2009 policies to the select board this year. For a quick reference, iPads were not around in 2009, so it's been a long time. I think those were 2010, so little comical thing here. So some overall goals that we have, I know this looks a little short, but I do want to explain these a little bit more. So the first thing I wanted to explain to the board is something that Bob and I have kind of coined it back and forth, and it's called the Reading rebound. And I know that sounds a little odd, but think of it like taking a shot in basketball and the other team, you know, tries to score. Reading just seems to end up with the rebound. In the past 5 years, we've had 10 employees, at least 10 employees return to Reading in some capacity. We've had managerial people, we've had line staff, we've had people that have retired and come back to continue to help. And those people all left for career-oriented reasons for the most part. They left for higher pay, better commute, better opportunity, or so they thought. And they returned to Reading. And that really speaks a lot, because that is pretty uncommon in the municipal world. Typically, when you're looking to move up in the municipal world, you're kind of jumping from lily pad to lily pad until you finally get to that high level that you wanted. But what seems to draw people back, various things. People talk about the management here. They talk about the high level of work that we put out. They've gone to places, and we've had most recently we had 2 DPW staff members who left, and we were getting ready to post a ton of vacancies for them, and all of a sudden both of them decided to come back, and I think one of them took a massive pay cut to come back, and they just said it's not the same. Reading just offers incredible opportunity. Not all of it is monetary sometimes, and it's just unbelievable. So I just wanted to say that that's something to be really proud of. So we've called that the Reading rebound. One of my friends at the state has told me that Reading is actually regarded as a pretty good place to work. So we do hold a good candle out there for anyone interested to know. But one of the things we wanted to do with this policy is we wanted to recognize that, yes, we're a great employer, but why are people leaving? What can we do to prevent this? So we're looking at some of the policies that we have, whether it be, you know, is it the vacation time? Is it the flexible schedules? Is it the succession planning? All of those things are what we're kind of looking at in order to keep our workforce here, because with that, we keep our institutional knowledge, we keep our good reputation, and it just works out for everyone. And that feeds right into the next section about we want to promote healthy employee policies. And you can take this in a myriad of ways. You can take it from a healthy standpoint and getting people out there and doing things and being healthy. One of the aspects that we were looking to is our hiring process. So next month, I'm actually going to a diversifying your hiring policy training, just so that I can get a good grasp of what we can be doing in a 2021 world to do that. I have gone to other trainings where they've discussed that, and you know, some of the items that I'm very excited to look at are, you know, how can we increase our applicant pool? You know, even outside of Massachusetts, can we get this nationwide? Can we get this, you know, however we can to bring the best applicants to Reading, because that's what we're about. We're about it being a great employer with great employees. Bringing people in from different backgrounds. We've recently been hiring a lot of veterans, so that's awesome. To just bring that experience into the town is always great. Looking for ways to expand this in social media. Are there other avenues that we can be advertising our positions other than maybe a LinkedIn post? So all of those avenues, nothing is off the books. We want to make sure that we get the word out there that we have some great opportunities, and we want to bring in as many people as we can to look at that and get them into our workforce. And then the last thing is the management tools that we have in the policy. We want to provide managers with the tools to equip and maintain high-performing employees. So that's going to be with their performance plans that we have in place, and possibly looking into some organizational succession plans, as I had mentioned. How can we get people to stay here if we let them know that, you know, we want to feed into them and bring them up to that higher level someday? That certainly could be a way to do that. We also want to be more goal-oriented as an employer. Sometimes it can be tough in the public sector to I don't want to say reward, but sort of recognize, you know, good talent. There's only so much we can do, especially ethically. We want to make sure that we're in a good place. So we do want to explore some of that as well. And then also training. What types of training is there for staff? I think everyone is always throwing the word training out there, but what are the really good trainings that are going to get our staff to where they want to be? Because I think one of the biggest things that people look for or they ask about in interviews are what sort of professional development opportunities does your community offer? What is that, you know, compared to the other community that person is interviewing in? So, and then this last slide here is just a preview of some of the changes to date. I didn't write everything down, but just some of the things that we're currently looking at. So we're going to be looking at some labor law and employment law updates, specifically pay equity, parental leave, and the works. Technology is pretty much absent from the current policy, and we want to make sure that we bring that into play. Social media, you know, all of that stuff. A remote working policy that's, you know, I think before COVID, it wasn't really conceivable for a public worker, at least in my head, to work remotely because you're in the building to serve the public. Now that we have this ability to serve the public or serve employees from afar, how do we work that into a policy so that's just another incentive to either bring people in or to keep people here? And then the last couple things fall under retaining employees. Are our vacation policies up to date with other entities out there? And then our holidays, you know, we had a new holiday added to the calendar, Juneteenth, in the past year, so we want to recognize that. What we did do too is we surveyed employees to see what their input was for this. Even though we had that committee together, we wanted to get general input from staff. and it was pretty well received, and there were some very common threads throughout that. And so we're hoping to really capture that and bring it to you all. Like I said, we're aiming for this July. Hopefully we can, hit that goal. And we're just trying to do the best that we can to we don't want to completely overhaul everything. We want to update it, and we're doing whatever we can without doing like anything short of a giant salary study. That would be like the next step, which is separate from these policies. But I just wanted to present all of that to the board. And if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. So thank you.
Sorry, Anne.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sean, thank you so much for the presentation. It sounds you have all certainly done incredible and difficult work this past year, so thank you very much. I appreciated your attention to the trainings around diversifying the applicant pool and ways to recruit. Is that something that you would include, and I hope that you would, in fact, in the updated personnel policy? I think it would be great if the personnel policy itself could reflect Reading's commitment to welcoming people of all backgrounds of the highest caliber for the job.
Oh, absolutely. I probably wouldn't. I would definitely want to convey the message that we're having this initiative to kind of go all out to bring people in. I don't think you were saying this. I wouldn't put like the specific places that we would advertise, but I would definitely get the point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you never know. Yeah. Tomorrow they're bought by someone else.
Right, exactly.
Right.
LinkedIn is no longer LinkedIn.
Right. LinkedIn is now something else. So
right.
No, absolutely. We want to just have a statement, even though we sort of already do this, and you could always improve on stuff too. I mean, I'm never at the place where I'm like, oh, great, we've made it. Now we can just kind of sit back and be here for the next 5 years. We always kind of want to hit that next stride. Other things that, just as an example, that I'm excited about are once, we're back to some sort of a, society that we all recognize. I'm very interested in getting into colleges as well and really getting to the students. I recently finished my degree at Suffolk, and I really wanted to, when I was leaving, unfortunately, it was virtual. I really wanted to connect with some of the staff there. I had gone through the, I don't know if anyone here is familiar, or if you are, great. The Mass Municipal Association does a joint program with Suffolk, and it's geared for municipal employees. So stuff like that, I want to just get more involved in. I think down the pipeline, some of the positions that are going to be very hard to fill are going to be the finance positions. Those are going to be pretty key in the next 5 to 10 years. And I just kind of want to, it's funny. We have people come in, and they're like, I had no idea that these types of opportunities were for municipal government. They just don't know. So I'm kind of excited to just get that word out there, whether it be to, a specific college or colleges in general, or joining with communities in the area with like-minded, policies and whatnot, just so we can kind of expand on that, because you just want to, like I said, bring the best people in.
Thank you, Sean.
Chris.
Thank you, Karen. Just coming from my own background, being a small business owner and hiring and all that stuff, is there a reason that we have to broadcast that we're just willing to hire and take whatever the best candidate is? It seems like that should have already been the way that it's been taking place for the last 500 years or so, like kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like for me, I just know it's always been hiring the best candidate. And unfortunately, with COVID and all that, it's getting a little bit more difficult to find new people. But I just wonder why that would even have to be mentioned, because I've never actually brought it up myself.
I think it's just to show people, and it doesn't need to be in those exact words, but just to show people that we are, we're an employer that will grow you into who you want to be, or to be the place that you want it to be. Whether or not that specific statement is in the policy or that's in our job posting, you know, remains to be seen. But I do understand what you're saying. Yeah. Do we need to say we want the best? I totally understand what you're saying. I get it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Mark?
Sorry, it clicked on, but didn't. Thanks, Sean. Nice to meet you, Annabella and Avantika. A few questions. One, do you folks cover the schools as well, or is that separate, or how do you work together?
So we cover the schools with their benefits and workers' compensation. We do not handle their personnel transactions. As a little fun fact, because my old position was between the town and the schools, that actually has been really beneficial for us to kind of get ahead of the curve for things like when the new teachers are coming in. So we've sort of started some good dialogues with the school department to streamline their hiring process as well. So it sort of aligns with what type of you know, obstacles might have been there in the past, what we can do to overcome them for the future.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Second, one of the things that we've talked about as a board over the last few years, I think, was the idea of 360-degree reviews, and having that be something that kind of enters the discussion of how reviews take place internally. Is that something that is kind of already built into your guys' thinking, or is that something that we probably should chat more about?
I can certainly bring it up. It hasn't come up yet at the, you know, as a specific change to the review, but I can certainly bring it to the table of the committee.
Would be great. Just for board members, the notion of 360-degree reviews is just to understand from the perspective of all people you're interacting with. So colleagues, supervisors, customers, kind of getting a kind of a full and more complete picture that way of how it might work. I know we've kind of talked about it, and I wasn't sure if we progressed, but maybe that's a good topic for discussion.
I know we talked about it with respect to perhaps the next town manager review.
Right. I see Bob's hands. I want to continue, but Bob, why don't you go ahead? Sorry.
I just want to respond that 360s are not formalized, certainly, but we do work in a very collaborative way, more so than most. And you know, you'll find out at one of your next meetings when we talk about union contracts that, you know, the unions and the employees are our partners. They're not the adversary. They're not the enemy. We work very much hand in hand, and employees are constantly making suggestions on how we should improve the whole place. And I don't just mean HR suggestions, operational suggestions. So, you know, in a sense, we're very flat organizationally from a dialogue standpoint, but we have not done that from a personnel evaluation standpoint. That's still done, you know, in the traditional linear fashion.
Yeah. The phrase that's getting used in the business world that I think translates here as well is stakeholder. And in the business world, it's a transition from thinking only about your shareholders, but talking about stakeholders, everybody that you're interacting with and having discussions with. And I think that might be a good model to, you know, to kind of think about. So thanks on that. I had, let's see, two other points. Customer satisfaction. Great. I saw that at the top. Awesome. I think that's one of the things that, as you said, it's a never-ending process. It's not, there's not a target particularly. It's not like you get there and you say, we're there, we're done. It's always kind of figuring out how can we do better? What are the ways we can do? And you're right, you know, the pandemic introduced challenges, but also some opportunities out of that. And I'm encouraged to kind of think about how we can better service the residents in things that, you know, 14 months ago, we would have said, yeah, sure, in 5-10 years, maybe. And now, you know, here we are, things are really different. So I'm encouraged. I think that's an important thing to kind of stay always focused on, and just thinking about how can we better service the residents of the town, residents and businesses, sorry. So that's a really good one. Oh, and just I think I'm mishearing your pronunciation of succession. I keep hearing it as secession, like we're about to secede from the Commonwealth, which I don't want to
no.
do.
No, planning ahead so that you can take your supervisor's job. Just
Awesome. Thank you.
That's a little blunt, but
thank you guys.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to follow up on Anne and Mark's points. With Mark's suggestion about, I've noticed a number of things, which I completely agree with Mark, that maybe technology was put into place that we could have used for years. I don't know if it was a coincidence or pandemic driven. So it would certainly be nice for people to be able to easily submit feedback. You know, we want to make sure that people can submit their complaints, and having a way for people to say, hey, this system's working great. I can think of a couple examples when I'm like, oh, this is so awesome and so much better than before the pandemic. So that might be nice. And then Anne's point about the diversity training is the next step when you've, looked into some of these best practices and you've formulated the policy and you know where you want to go, is the next step then to take a look at the website and look at the stakeholder facing parts of the town, so that when you're doing your outreach and people are seeing postings and they come and they want to learn about Reading, all of this great stuff, the basics, we don't discriminate and we're an equal opportunity employer. I kind of think that's all we've got right now. So I'm looking for what can we do to go beyond that, without necessarily just saying we only hire the best employees, but again, along the lines of diversity and inclusiveness and proactive recruiting. So I would expect that you might get some best practices from this training you're looking at.
that's what the hope is.
Okay, because then if no one sees it, it doesn't happen. But we all go right to the web now. When we need to find out about something, we go right to the web. So our, I believe it was Bob who's noted like how many hits in the town warrant, how many hits our website has taken. It just increased the pressure. So I look forward to see what you come back with.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Bob?
Yeah, just to remind the board, you had planned and asked for 2 sessions. One was kind of a mid-course update. So if Sean or I don't hear a lot of comments, then, we believe we're on the right track. 3 months or 2 months is a short amount of time to polish up this product, for you to see it in final form. When you do, it's not meant to be approved in one night necessarily. It could be another dialogue. But if you heard anything that's concerning tonight or some area that was omitted, the sooner you send us a comment, the more helpful that will be. So thank you. And thanks for coming back, Sean.
Thank you all for staying up late and coming to speak to us and present this. Appreciate it.
Yeah, the HR staff, all 3 and others do a great job. And Sean understates how helpful he is to the schools. He's the Rock of Gibraltar sometimes there.
Thanks, Bob.
Beautiful thing.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
And Matt's great too. He's not showing, but he helps a lot with the HR stuff too.
Yeah, Matt's okay.
Yeah.
Gee, thanks.
Vantika and Annabella run the
I'm watching.
show.
Well, my review's coming up, so I have to make sure I give Matt his props.
I'm always watching.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all very much.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
all. Thanks for coming.
Okay, we are running 10 minutes behind, not bad.
So is Jane in the waiting room, Caitlin? Okay.
Wonderful.
You can't even imagine how difficult HR has been over the last year.
Now that
It's
they're
just been
gone.
unbelievable.
Hi, Chris. Hi, Jane. Thank you for joining.
Hi,
Hey, folks.
how you doing?
Good. Really excited about this topic. There's a lot of buzz out there in the community.
Yeah, we had a lot of activity today. Let's see. Maybe I'll share this here. Okay, can people see that?
Yes.
All right. So you probably have seen this out on social media. It's on our website along with some other material. So we just kicked off a program where we're a pilot program with Black Earth, where we are providing bins for residents and a roll of bags because we're trying to encourage subscribers. Currently, there's 214 subscribers in Reading. That's and I think we had 26 today alone that signed up. So once we get to the 300, it's a benefit for everybody because the rate goes down to $69.99. It took a little time because a couple of things. We wanted to make sure when I was working with them, they said that I was thinking about subsidizing, the subscription. And the problem with doing that was that prevailing wage would kick in. So whatever benefit for the resident that the resident might get would be negated almost immediately because of the wage rates. So I said, all right, how can we encourage it without that then? And so they said if a couple of communities had, purchased that first bin for residents, which is almost a $30 value, and we provided the roll of bags and, then they're off and running. So, and especially if we can get enough subscribers to hit the 300 mark, I mean, that's a significant savings for people. So I don't see that's going to take too long to get there with what we saw today. I don't know if anybody had questions on it. It's pretty straightforward. I know there's a lot of, we're trying to get Jane Wellman put a lot of information out for me on social media. It's on the website. It's
so on the website, Jane, they should go to DPW.
So no, they really should sign. They have to first sign up with Black Earth. Mm-hmm. Black Earth then sends us an email saying John Smith just signed up, and they'll also tell them, and it's on our website, that once you've signed up, then contact us, and we'll get you the bin and the bags and whatnot. So like we gave out a dozen plus today, so we'll probably do the remaining tomorrow. They haven't all contacted us. We just get an email saying they signed up. Not everybody has contacted us to get it, but that's the step. They have to first go to Black Earth, sign up. That subscription comes to us to say, this person has signed up. Now you can provide the bin and bags to them.
Okay. So I did see it. Oh, go ahead, Carl.
Oh, thanks, Karen. No, I think this is great. 2 weeks ago, I signed up. Our family did. It was at 176. It gives you the count after you signed up. So that's 214. After this promotion is a good start, like you said. And I think this is great. I appreciate this, and hopefully we can get to 500. Never mind 300.
Yeah.
So I encourage anyone, especially as a family, you would be amazed what you can compost. So we're excited. Our first pickup is this week, so we're very excited.
Yeah, that's a good point. So the pickups are on Thursdays in Reading, and will remain on Thursdays for a while. They, he said maybe if we had, hundreds of subscribers, that might change, but right now it's a Thursday pickup. So pretty straightforward. I mean, I did meet with the Black Earth committee just to kind of let them know what I was doing a few weeks ago, and they sent some correspondence, and I'm going to post that just to the benefits of it. And then there's another link on the website for what you can and cannot compost with them. So there's some good material out there for people to kind of review, but it's pretty straightforward, and it will save on our tonnage, which is good because, you know, the rate is up there. So
I'd like to say that I think, you know, we first talked about this in January, and Jane, you had mentioned that you had been thinking about it, but then, you know, other things took priority. So I'm thinking from a select board, you know, speaking to some residents in January, and then you being able to work with them and come up with a program in April, I'd say that's pretty fast turnaround, and that's wonderful. And then again, when people move to town, the first thing they do is go and look at, like, when's trash day, what do we do for recycling? And so that's why I also saw that now that they're coming to our town, they will also deliver the finished compost. And I think that's a huge benefit for residents. They're coming here anyway, so you can just order that. So I'm really excited. Thank you.
yeah, well, that's good. Yeah, I think it's a great company. It's going to be a good program for Reading.
Anybody else have any comments? Mark, sorry.
I'll let you know that Chris had his hand raised first, but then I'd like to comment.
Sorry, my fault. Okay, Chris, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, my wife had signed up for this about a month ago. Same scenario. She handles it, not me. It seems super easy. You know what I mean? From my aspect, all I do is I have to carry it out because the thing weighs a ton. So in reference to the subscriber thing, is that the 300 thing Reading only, and the other cities and towns have this as well, but they have their own amount of subscribers?
Correct. This is
So there's no collaboration.
Right. No.
All right. Super easy though. Took us 5 minutes. So.
Mark.
Thanks, Karen. 2 words: pizza boxes.
I think I saw that on there that you could.
The answer is yes.
Yeah.
That's one of the key things. So I will tomorrow move us toward that 300 number personally.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember because it's not easily recycled with the normal. So I remember seeing that. So that's good.
No, this is terrific. Thank you.
Okay. I think we're good.
Thanks,
Right,
Jane.
Jack, have a great
All right.
night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye, Jane.
Thanks, folks. Thanks for making this happen.
Aaron, can we take a 5-minute break, please?
Sure, if everyone's, that sound good? Okay, it's 9:18, so let's reconvene at 9:23-ish, 23. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bob, when are you going to tell us what you can spend that $7 million on?
As soon as I see it. I haven't heard much. That parcel that was just discussed is assessed at 15 million round figures. That's doing a $28 million loan. So interesting. When it sold in 2010, it was 15.2 million.
Oh yeah, I forgot that happened. Yeah, I'm just amazed that that can be run as a profitable business, and so I'm fingers crossed, that it keeps going that way. Okay, and Carla, everybody's back. Okay, let's see, what are we doing next?
Hey, Karen, just a quick comment that may be helpful for just to let RCTV know when we're taking a recess that they should wait, and then when we're back that they should come back live, just so that they know when to post something other than.
Do you send them a chat? I don't recall that you always say anything. Do you send them a chat?
No, just say it formally.
Okay, good, thanks. Okay, so we're moving on to town manager goals. And to clarify, Bob, what you sent in the packet was what you provided, was it in February?
Actually, I want to comment about that. Anne asked me a question this morning, and I never answered because it was a hard question to answer. On page 84 of your packet, it looks like a document was cut off. So, Anne, the format you sent was in a document, but it was only repeated for one page of your packet. And it's not that the document itself was not included in the packet. The document itself was cut off somehow. So I haven't had time to go back and figure that out. Today I sent Chris the presentation I had given in, it turns out it was early February. I think it was February 2nd. So I'm not sure that what's in your packet is a 100% complete version. I'll find that. I hadn't noticed till Ann asked me a question this morning. But the point of this discussion was, again, from updates you'd heard before, if the board has any, similar to the HR questions, do you have any comments on goals? And Mark has sent me this morning a fairly comprehensive list, and I've heard specific comments from some board members otherwise. And I just, this is an opportunity that Mark and I had discussed that, I really should hear from all of you, or hear that you have nothing else to say before I do another update, just to make sure we're on the right track. And I'm obviously happy to do another update. And, I guess with a new member, it's perhaps a little more timely even. But obviously, we're getting close to the end of the fiscal year. I want to do another update before the end of June. So, as soon as possible. And Ann, I certainly take your point that, if the board can spend some more time at a meeting talking about this, I'm all for that. I'm all for your feedback and not, doing it kind of in an organized way all at once, I guess I'll say.
So I did, go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to add that, well, as we have a new member with Chris, and things have changed a lot from kind of when we established the goals to where we are now. That my thought is the idea of having I'll call it a retreat, but an activity where we can focus pretty much solely on our own kind of our goals, mission, internal kinds of things could really make sense to do sooner rather than later. And I think it's a great onboarding for Chris. And it's a chance just for us all to kind of talk and maybe take stock of, what the year has been and start looking forward from there.
Yeah, and Mark, you have, you as a board have 6 meetings coming up that have nothing at all on the agenda. So obviously I'll work with Karen as the new chair, but you should have ample opportunity to discuss anything you want. You know, I say that and then the skies will fall in and there'll be all sorts of agenda items, I know.
Yeah, but I think that the idea of maybe carving out a couple of hours.
Yeah.
As, you know, so either a meeting, maybe it's a whole meeting, something like that, but
Mark,
suggestion to you.
4 hours. You want 4 hours.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I would really appreciate the chance to bring department heads, so some advance notice would be helpful. Because I think you'd benefit from hearing their feedback.
So I did go through this today and I have some comments that I can share with you, Bob, because I do think I agree with Mark. I think I'm looking at the item sustainability. I think with the climate bill passing at the State House, it really shifts, you know, what we need to be focused on. But one general comment, and I was wondering if in the next update, and it could be more of a bullet format of things that are completed, things are in process. It might be a little bit easier to just go through.
Sure.
And I mean, it is easier to, I know you're working on a lot of things and I know staff's working on a lot of things, and sometimes it's just easier to focus on, okay, here's what we've gotten done so far. Here's the, at least that's the way I kind of approach things.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, my general thought looking at it today was, so number 4, you know, economic development. Oh yeah, so, okay, yeah, so like that'd be a great place where if we could hear the specific grants and what they're being applied or used for, like that might work well with the bullet format. My other thought was open space planning is that I think since you did this update, we've had some significant community input. So actually I didn't want to say too much about that because I figured there's probably updates coming.
Yeah, there's certainly been a lot of progress in some of these areas since February, that I'll be happy to update the board on.
Anne?
I think one of the things that I had originally reached out to Bob about today was trying to track the goals that the select board had approved to the documents in the packet. So and to Karen's point about bullets, I wonder if it would be helpful, or I do think it would be helpful if the next update, it could even be an edited version of the select board's approved goals. So like, here's the actual language of what the select board approved, and then, a bullets as to progress on the goals as approved by the select board. I think that would be helpful versus trying to, cross-reference multiple documents.
I second that. It's a little difficult. I noticed it last year too.
Anne, if I might share a screen, I think this will help explain what I just said earlier. So right here, the board had arranged these goals, decided on 9 specific goals. And then your format had this, for instance. You had, 5 specific things listed under this one. And I had a document, I don't know if I still do, that has all the details that you sent me in this format. So it would have done exactly what you just asked for. I just need to find it or recreate it. So, hopefully now, I take Karen's point. If you don't want a narrative, I can change that format to be a little more concise and to have, bullet point answers, details, or so on. That's not hard. But this is the format that you gave me the goals in, for instance.
Got it. Yeah, I know I've been trying to see, for example, like the social justice goal, where the update was on that.
Yeah, and that just right after here, this just discontinues right here. Yeah. So the whole rest of the document
So
is missing. Yeah, so I'm missing like 6 or 7 pages.
Okay, all right.
I'll find it though.
Okay.
I hadn't noticed till you pointed it out, honestly.
Bob, I can send you the original from the board if that helps, if you need that.
Ann sent me that, and I had that. It's a question of, I then, put some flesh on it, if you will. So I'll just have to look for it. It could be a casualty of cyberspace. I don't know. That happens. But, if the board would prefer me to get away from a narrative style, I'm happy to do that. You can usually present a little more information if you're not, worried about the fancy words. And I just throw a lot of words out there in bullet point fashion. I'm happy to do that too.
Any thoughts from other board members on how you like to, look at things? Mark?
I'm sorry to suggest hybrid, such a hard word to work on right now. I think it actually is very helpful to have a little bit of the kind of general idea of what's going on, and then the bullet points with some specifics. So a great example that I think Karen and Ann just mentioned was if there are specific grants or something that took place, that lends itself very nicely to a bullet, but kind of generally what's going on, I think doesn't lend itself to bullets as well. So,
okay.
Sorry, I think in between is.
Yeah, I think we can work on that. I'll bring in the department heads. We just want to take a little bit of a time and not do this in your next meeting, but we can work on this. In addition to, sort of format, I'm also interested in content. Were there any things discussed last February? And I have the presentation I gave if it's helpful for me to show. If very little feedback from the board is good, then I'm fine with that. I just wanted to give you an opportunity to, say anything if you had it to say.
So I don't think we discussed, you're talking about the quarterly review that we tried to do earlier in the year?
We did an update on goals and I think it was the February 2nd meeting. And Ann thought we might have had to cut it short. I don't recall, but
yeah,
it sounds like we might have. And then Mark said to the rest of you, if you have any comments, please share them with Bob before he does another update. So it's really that simple.
Yeah, we didn't get to discuss it. Something else it got booted. Sorry, Bob.
Okay. Let me just quickly share this and see if you remember. Now, this is the format that we used in February, or I used in February.
Yes,
so let's go backwards.
Okay.
I don't think we walked through it in real time. I don't think we walked through it live in real time.
So, for instance, Ann, here's the social justice bullet points as of February.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, the second bullet is a question I know I had asked you during the spring. There's conflicting opinions on this. And none of them are my opinion, by the way. So, maybe I need to just reorganize everything and get it to the board again. Maybe that's the best way.
Mm-hmm.
And if the board has any thoughts, certainly a lot has happened over the year and every month. I'll recirculate the goals the board voted on to all of you so that you can then make a comment as to whether, the goals you agreed to in whatever it was, October, November, are still priorities, whether there's something you want to add or subtract or, whatever you like, so that we can all be working kind of from the same page. And, if I sent that out, let's say tomorrow, and ask for feedback in a week, then I'll start working with the department heads based on whatever you've told me to come up with another update in a format that's easy to digest.
Carlo?
Thanks. Bob, I don't know if you can answer this. I know a few meetings ago, either you or Julie mentioned that we haven't filled the park committee yet. Do you know how that stands?
Caitlin, do you know? We still hadn't, at last I heard.
Well, Vass needs to meet, but yeah, we still need one more applicant to fill out all of the spots. But you have 6 of the 7, I think it was, or was it 7 people? or 9.
I forget if it was 7 or 9, but I know it was at least 7.
You either have 6 of 7 or 8 of 9. I can't remember, but you're still missing one. You need one to have a full board, but.
And do you happen to know the cross section of that, business owners versus residents?
I don't know. I can look and let you know if you want. I believe we put it out on social media again after the last meeting, but
Yeah.
I haven't seen anything come in.
I mean, the reason I bring it up is I'm concerned that if we don't get a good cross section, that we're going to waste another year. And I think before we even form the committee, we need to have that discussion if we want to pursue that, because we thought there'd be more appetite for this, and so far there isn't, and that's no one's fault. But I don't, the staff has done so much good work that if only 6 or 7 people apply, I think it should come back to us. That's just my opinion. We should take this on like we were doing last year, and if there's not a good cross section, because if it's all residents, that's no good. If it's all business owners, that's no good either. So I just want to put that out there to the board that maybe we have to have some kind of deadline in place. I don't know what to do here, but I think we talked about this months ago that we initiated this, and here it is, the end of April. So I don't know how much time you guys want to give it.
Can I make a suggestion that we try one more post on social media to letting people know that here's the committee, here's the kind of volunteers we're looking for. And then Caitlin, if you would, to Carlos' suggestion, just kind of give us an idea right now, the kind of applicants, so we can, maybe it's the size of the committee. I mean, maybe we it's too big, but it could still function smaller. But
I believe we have mostly applicants from residents.
Okay, so in which case it could be, we're looking for business, if that's needed, we could look for business volunteers. Does that make sense, Carlo?
I can double check and go through and see exactly how many tomorrow, and then
Yeah.
do you want to when we put it on social media, do you want to put it out as like we need more business owners, or do you just want to put it out generally again and see what we get? Or
I think anyone here that has a social media page, should do it as well. But I mean, the town's reach is obviously far and wide, but if it ends up being after this, it's all residents, I want to retract the committee that we formed, because not to disparage anybody that volunteered or applied for it, but that's not a representation of what the committee was meant to be. So I'm willing
It has to be all residents, but you're saying
it has to be all residents, but I think it's, there's several business owners in Reading who are Reading residents.
Right.
But,
right. And so none have applied, Caitlin, from your memory?
I'm not sure if it's none. I just believe it was mostly just residents and not business owners.
Yeah, that's again. I mean, Chris has his hand up. I'll let Chris ask.
Hey, hold on, Carlo.
Yep.
Oh, you're all set though, Carlo? Okay. Okay, Chris.
Yeah, I would like to give kudos to whoever is handling it, because I know my business has received 2 or 3 emails or something like that regarding this. So the communication is there I don't know if it's going out to residents, but I know from my business on Haven Street that I have been receiving it. So you can't fault yourself for trying. I mean, I know I would have applied, but it's a little different situation right now. So, but yeah, it definitely, the reach has been out there from me getting it, and not just me, my HR person as well. So it's both of us. So somehow something is working, and hopefully we get more interest, because it's definitely a big issue.
Mark?
Thanks, Karen. So very interesting, Carlo. I think you're either we get a decent group and we can make this work and accomplish what we hoped, or it's not the right structure. So I'm in agreement with you. I'm wondering, I don't know if the chamber has been directly involved in whether or not they might if they understand that there aren't enough business representatives, that they might either be one themselves and or ask for some people and just say, hey, folks, come on, let's do it. Just a thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I would say, if it's okay.
You say the chamber in terms of being a represent, sorry, Karen.
That's okay, go ahead.
Were you thinking, asking Lisa Egan, as she is both the resident and a representative?
Possibly Lisa or
ask
other.
her if she'd be interested in applying.
Yeah, there were a number of businesses that have expressed concerns and have shared input when we had sessions to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know why they're not wanting to participate here. If it seems like a heavy lift or something, I'm not quite sure, but it would be great to get, we really want their input, right? That's kind of why this is all being discussed. So it's really important we get that. And I think Lisa, either through her membership or potentially herself as a representative, maybe that's a way to do it. I don't mean to put her in the hot seat. Sorry, Lisa.
Right. All right, I'm wondering, can someone ask Erin if she has, or I'm not sure who the right person would be, if anyone has reached out to the chamber. That's a great idea, just to make sure, and maybe they have, and then you can let us know. And so, yeah, I agree with Carlo. I guess we should just start and make a movement. So maybe put this on our next agenda and see where we're at and decide what we want to do. Does that sound good? Okay. All right. Okay. So that we just, well, that was sort of a future meeting agenda topic, so that's good. So we need to approve some meeting minutes.
Sorry, I think Bob's got his hand up as well.
Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, just while you're kind of circling the topic, until further notice, we'll go with the board members' liaison assignments as they are. But when the board reorganize, and especially when you lost a member, that's something you should be thinking about. So we'll assume that I think it's Karen and Carlo that are the VASC members until you change that.
So I don't have the next. So are we going to reorganize the next meetings? That typically what we do? I think we did it pretty quick. Not reorganize, but do the liaison assignments.
Yeah, different chairs have approached it different ways, but in recent years, the chair has asked members for their interests, I guess I'll say.
Mm-hmm.
And I can facilitate that, and I should facilitate it because you shouldn't do that with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's in recent years, again, it's a chair assignment. The chair has assigned the liaison roles. Several years ago, it was done a little bit differently at a meeting. So it can be whatever you like. It could be done at a meeting with a discussion for some period of time, or it could just be done administratively through a survey, if you will, and then Karen, you as chair, say, okay, here's what you got. Whatever your choice. In the select board policy, it's up to the chair.
Okay, I was fine with the way Mark did it last time. Thank you, Bob, for sharing all the liaison roles that were currently assigned. I'm assuming Chris has a copy of that. So.
No, I haven't had a chance to meet Chris yet, but I'll catch up.
Oh, okay. So there is a circulating list, so you can see the committees and the roles, and then I think I would be fine with doing what we did last year. I think we sent a list to Bob, if I remember correctly. Is that what we did?
Yeah, there's two ways to do a list, and the way that the current board list is, I've got comments. I don't know if you have. It's by person, and then it's your assignments underneath. And I have got comments that's not user friendly. So it's perfectly fine to have that version for you, but we should also produce a version for the public that's more topic oriented. And I'll send you both formats so you see what I mean.
Great.
And then, Karen, if you want, I can just send an email out before the next meeting and say, please get back to me and indicate, your preference. In the past, board members have done it different ways, but, kind of a 1, 2, 3, 1, I really want to do it, 3, please don't make me do it, and 2 is like whatever. And then some board members have actually listed 1 through 37, their preferences. So it'd be nice if you all agreed on the same style. 1, 2, 3 is fine. One is you really want to do it. Two is you wouldn't mind doing it. And three is please don't make me do it.
Okay.
And nobody gets offended if you say three from history.
Go ahead, Mark.
Just to clarify, so it doesn't mean you only select 3 things.
Yes.
It means you select a number of them that are ones, a certain number of twos, a certain number of threes, so that we kind of have gone through the list completely, because there are a lot of different potential liaison assignments that are in there. And I think the other thing we ended up doing last year is we talked about, and maybe this should be a future agenda item, kind of what role we expect of the liaisons. And the reality is that if each of us have 12 or 15 or whatever the number is of assignments, it's not possible to physically attend every meeting and all sorts of other things. So we ended up, I think, creating a list of groups that were either meeting regularly, or there were active issues, or there was a reason to kind of go into a higher intensity mode versus lower.
Yeah, and mostly for Chris's benefit, here's a list. So there's a lot of liaison assignments. This is not the way Mark just described. There is another presentation that has them sort of broken into more intense and less intense, if you will. You know, and I realize it's kind of small, but you know, there's a lot of opportunities for board members that have specific interests. So
I like this format better than the one you sent out earlier.
I'll figure out a way to make it simple for you to respond with your interest.
I like how we did it last year. Honestly, I like the 1, 2, 3 method, you know, and I think we all ended up with kind of what we wanted and dealt with the 2s, and I don't think anyone got any 3s, so it worked out. But that's just my opinion.
Okay. Okay.
Chris has his hand raised.
What? Oh,
Chris
sorry.
has his hand raised.
Hi, Chris. Go ahead.
Is there a reason why we can't use like a Google form for this? Is it like not allowed, or what? Because you can just put the radio boxes and just be done with it, kind of thing. So you could just, you know what I mean? Like when you've seen Google survey
Yes.
form things,
There is a reason. Unfortunately, it's called open meeting law. The board can't share documents like that with each other, even though it's logical.
But not sharing it. Just you put out the survey, and
You can't all go to the same place to do stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So it has to be kind of done a little bit old fashioned, I guess I'll say.
All right. Easy enough.
Yeah, we tried once.
Great. So minutes. So excited. I'll be honest, I didn't get to do the last set of the minutes. I did the first 3. But Mark has done an excellent job of keeping us up to date in the minutes. We need to continue that tradition, right? Okay. I didn't really have any changes for 3/2/21. Did anyone else?
I'd sent Caitlin some edits, but I need to refresh my recollection on what the dates were for them.
Which was the first set you were talking about, Karen?
I in the packet, I thought the first set was 3/2/21.
I think we had ones from February in there.
February 16th. February 16th.
I missed that one. That's what happens when your packet is like 300 pages. Sorry.
It was under 300. I thought I was doing good this time.
294, a mere 294.
So yeah, the first set is February 16th.
Okay.
It starts on page 89 of your packet.
Okay.
And Anne did have a suggestion to add, there was reference to Bob and Dr. Doherty's statement they made. If I could actually add the actual statement at the end of the the minutes as like a document?
Yeah, I think what you had was accurate, but I think it's probably not. It doesn't quite tell you what it's about. A joint statement regarding some issues regarding teachers, town employees, and police. So I figured why not just include that text.
I think that's a good idea.
Okay, I actually did
Had a
review.
comment on page 90, which would be the same. Under, let's see, the Walkersbrook Drive presentation, when the board had comments about sidewalks, bike lanes, and costs, she wanted a little more detail in there.
I think sort of similar to the other comment. It's not inaccurate, but it's if you weren't watching the meeting, you wouldn't really be able to know what happened, I think. And I did actually have one more, and I didn't tell you what the page number was. Let's see. I think it's okay. Under the town manager update on page 90, Bob LeLasher noted that himself, Mark, and Ann, town staff, and our MLD staff met to discuss green communities recently. I wasn't in that meeting. I don't know if it was somebody else.
I think that was me. I saw that too. Thank you. The dates all screwed up. I saw that too. Okay, we did. We had was that the meeting we had with the legislators? Mark, that I think that's the only green communities meeting we've had this year.
I think it was, and one of the legislators couldn't make it.
Okay. No, MAPC didn't make it.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
Didn't make it.
Okay, so yeah, Caitlin, if you could add, okay, so I was
No.
there, Mark was there, and the 3 state reps were there.
Was it
Yeah.
MAPC or was it DOER? It
Well,
wasn't.
it's the same because he works for both, so you
Oh,
can.
right.
yeah,
Okay,
either way.
right.
And I was
Yep.
not there. So my name should not be.
Right. There were only 2 of us present.
Yes, there were only 2 select board members, yes. And all of our state delegates did come.
That was it for that set from Anne.
Okay, under the liaison report, the Climate Advisory Committee had a biomass energy policy that they wanted to present to the board. Yeah, that's what we should say. It was a specifically woody biomass energy policy. And I think that's it.
That's page 90, right?
Yep, that's page 90. Thanks.
Actually, Anne did have another one on 90. I'm sorry, Anne.
That's all right. Did I reference the correct page? I noticed at the end, I think I referenced an incorrect page.
Let me see.
So this was regarding questions regarding the new health director position. And I just had some suggestions to add language, but I'm sorry, I'm having trouble actually finding it in the document now. I think I had the wrong page number. I think it might be page 96. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think my other comments were for page 96, Caitlin.
Okay, So that's not for another set or two. Okay.
Yes.
So that's all the edits we have for 216, unless anyone else has any other suggestions.
So Caitlin, so this magical page 90.
Yep.
Are you going to add a bit more detail in terms of the comments on sidewalks, bike lanes, and
Yep.
costs?
Yes. Yep, I can do that. Or if someone has a sentence or two they want to give me, whatever you prefer. I think it was in regards to the width of the sidewalks and the bike lanes and how wide they would be. I think that was from you, Mark, actually. You asked how wide the sidewalks were going to be, and they said big enough to get a town vehicle down there if they needed to.
Was that Walker's Brook or was that Birch Meadow? I think that was Birch Meadow paths. Yeah, because it said paths and there wasn't a reference to it. In Walker's Brook, I didn't think it was that. I thought Walker's Brook was where we indicated some priorities,
Yes.
where the board indicated a few priorities. And
Yeah.
I think we talked about pedestrian
Yep.
access and safety as number one.
I can go back and watch that section.
Worth just a little bit, because I think we need to give it a little bit more detail. I also think that, to Ann's point, what people probably need to take away from that meeting is what the priorities were that we identified, the things that we four board members at the time and Vanessa identified as priority. Because they gave us quite an array of stuff. Karen, I have a giant screen. I can see everybody's hand, but I see Chris. Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chris, please. Sorry about that.
So I guess my only general question, just from my own way of doing Adobe and all that stuff, is there a reason that everything gets scanned in with Adobe like this so it's not searchable? Or like, is it created like this for a reason? Just so, because some of the PDFs that you're getting in, like the Black Earth Compost, like a couple pages before this stuff, is searchable, but a lot of the town stuff in the emails that people send in is not searchable. It's not like original PDFs printed out. I'm just wondering.
Yeah, so there's the reason for that is the packet is put together kind of piece by piece. So staff brings me stuff and leaves it on the counter, or they email it to me, and depending how it's given to me is how it gets put in the packet. The emails from residents are scanned because I would have to individually PDF every single one, and you've been getting about 100 all the time. So that's, it's just easier for me to print them and scan them that way for the emails part. When it comes to presentations, I try to get the presentations through email so that I can just put them in a PDF in there and put them, don't have to print them and scan them. I just put them right, merge them into a PDF. So those are usually searchable. So that's kind of why it's all different.
Okay. And Bob's muted.
Bob, you're muted.
Sorry, just on minutes, the board's tried different approaches, including sending out a Word version in advance, that's reasonably easy to edit. But then that relies on, us getting them back in time for the packet, which is hard. So, whichever is the easiest way to do it, we'll try to work with it.
Okay, so are we all set with that? Mark, did you want to read what Caitlin has put in there for the priorities?
I haven't added anything yet. I'm gonna have to go back and look at it.
Okay, do you want to put that on the slide then?
I think we need to. We need to get it next time though.
Okay, that's fine. All right, so I'm gonna skip ahead to the next one. Okay, so I did mess up all these dates. Let's see. So the next set is the next set 3-2 then?
Yes.
Okay.
So are we not approving 216? Because we're going to be way out of the limit to approve those minutes.
Right.
We're going to be in violation.
Well, the rule is that unless there is a reason. Now, I think we could approve them, you know, with Caitlin making those edits, or subject to Caitlin making those edits.
Mark, do you want to type something quickly in the chat? Maybe that you could put in there?
I hesitate. I haven't given it more than
Yeah,
minutes.
I understand. No, I understand.
I would be comfortable approving subject to Caitlin reviewing and adding more detail on that one section.
Okay.
And then we could just ask if you could include it, or if you could send it to us maybe after you've done that so we can take a peek.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the minutes of 2/16/21? Subject.
Motion to approve the minutes of 2/16/2021 as amended and subject to Caitlin adding more detail on the Walkersburg Drive, Carter and intersection board comments.
Second. Okay, as I see you, Anne?
Yes.
Carlo?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
And Karen, yes. Okay, 2/16 done. 3/23.
3-2.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna try to keep you guys in. Okay. I had a couple little liaison report edits, I believe. Let's pull that up again.
So 3-2, I don't think we had liaison reports, did we?
I guess not. Okay. And Anne, you did abstain from that EV charging station letter because I didn't remember you abstaining from that one, but that's more complicated. That was grant program.
It's because you decided to sign it with all the board, so she decided it was easier to abstain.
Right, because I think it was directed to a state agency, and it was signed from the select board. So to be cautious and to avoid a conflict or an appearance thereof, I abstained.
I have no edits to this.
I did not receive any edits for this either.
Okay, so great. So how about Mark, would you give us a motion to approve the minutes of 3/2?
Move to approve the minutes of 3/2/2021 as written.
Second.
Great. Anne?
Yes.
Carlo?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
And Chris?
Yes.
Karen, yes. Super. Okay, all right. Yeah, these are so I just wanted to add a little detail under the liaison report. The MVP update was regarding, and I stumble on what is this called? The Mallet Soames land or Myatt Soames land?
Oh, the mallet?
Mallet, thank you. Because we've had multiple MVP projects. So this was a, yeah, MVP grant.
On mallet land.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's a grant. And then it was Coolidge Middle School. And they are, let's see. They requested select board support for a civics project about local government and specifically town meeting. Okay, the rest of it looked good to me. What do you all think?
This is where Anne had, I think, Anne, this is where your comments were, right?
Ian, you're on mute.
Sorry, that's right. So the comments I sent to Caitlin, one was, I think at the top of the page where in the second paragraph, the board discussed specifics about the position, and this is in reference to the health director, i.e. where the person would sit and under what department, and I just made it a little more specific. So where the person would sit physically in the police department, but would not be reporting to the police department. And then with respect to my comments in the liaison reports, Anne Landry congratulated our new deputy chief Christine Amendola. I just wanted to make note that I also asked the town manager for an overview of the selection process.
Carlo, did you have a comment?
Yeah, something very minor on my liaison. I'm on mute right now. On my liaison report, it says permanent building committee. I'm guessing that should be CPDC because I've never attended or commented on permanent building committee.
Okay. I thought it was about the water tank, but I could be wrong.
The permanent building committee got involved in the water tank, but I didn't attend any of those meetings. So, you know,
okay.
I guess on permanent building committee's comments, if you want to make that, but you know, either way, I'm not a. I think Mark's the liaison to permanent building committee.
Yeah.
Minor, nothing major.
One other comment, if I could, again, in the liaison reports, the second sentence, he also noted in the wake of recent events targeting Asian American and Pacific Islanders, condemned those actions and hate crimes. Can I make one other comment too? In the, I'm on page 97 in the water tank update. And in the second paragraph, we're talking about presentations with their plans for a temporary structure and what it would mean for cell service. I think one of the important things there is that we pushed them to assure high quality continuation of quality cell service during the construction period with the temporary structure, and that they responded that they would be able to maintain service for residents, for businesses, and then the comments from the chiefs is very appropriate there. How important it is for public safety.
Okay, and actually, I just saw one. Bob, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just kind of offer a friendly amendment that Ryan is really the town engineer, not the town accountant.
Okay.
On the water tank update. I think he'd be horrified if he were the town accountant.
Oh my God.
Sharon would have trouble with town engineer too if they swapped.
Yes, they would.
a team building exercise. Have everyone change roles for a week. How's that? Okay, under the energy policy, I missed this before. So the resolution from the Climate Advisory Committee had to do with specifically woody biomass, WOODY. And so there's two places that should say woody biomass, and woody biomass power purchases. I would say instead of in town, say woody biomass power purchases. And we'll be good on that.
Where is
Because
that?
it's under energy policy. It's actually right under the water tank update. I think it's on the same page.
Page 97 again.
So in town. And what do you want it to say instead of in town?
Instead of in town, just say woody biomass power purchases. There's different kinds of biomass, and they definitely just want to be clear, they haven't said that they're all bad. Just this was specifically woody biomass. Thank you.
One more on that same page. Minutes. So that sentence, I think we need to modify slightly. The sentence right now reads, the board edited the minutes noting they want more summary level with less detail. I think we need to add a sentence that said the board wants the minutes to describe subject matter, board opinions, just something like
this
that.
is a tricky, I hadn't noticed this. I feel like, I also think that wasn't something that we took a vote on. And I don't think, I think it's hard to say that the board noted they wanted more summary level with less detail. There were some board members who made comments to that effect, but that was not a board vote. Or even, I don't know that there was necessarily a majority of board members who made comments to that effect. So I don't, and that wasn't really resolved or voted upon. So
It seems to be an ongoing discussion, Ann, you're right.
yeah, it's an ongoing discussion for sure. But I don't think that there was that kind of direction given from the board as a whole.
So just remove the sentence.
I think that's fine.
That was
Yeah.
That was a question, not a statement.
I think we could remove it, or we would add more detail in terms. But I think it's fine to remove it because I don't think it's actually captures what the board directed. But Caitlin, I can understand why you, because that kind of statement was made, but I don't think it was something that was the board as a whole.
Is that it? We good?
I think so.
Ready for motion?
Yep. Yes, please.
Move to accept the minutes of March 23rd, 2021 as amended.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, Anne,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
and Karen, yes. Thank you. And one more set, and they are nice and short. I don't have any edits to these.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm good. Ready for a motion?
Yes, I think so. Okay.
Move to accept the minutes of March 30th, 2021 as written.
Second.
Great. Anne,
Yes.
Carlo,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
and Karen, yes. Excellent. Thank you. We're all caught up. For the agenda.
Need to find you a motion, I think.
Oh, let me go back up to top. That's where the agenda is. Okay.
You want to talk about the next agenda, Mark, or are you doing a motion for executive session?
Oh, sorry, I'm jumping out of order and I'm in the wrong seat. I'm the secretary.
All right. So we talked about a couple of future meeting agenda topics, liaisons, and are there any others?
I'm not looking at that sheet right now, but is the records access policy there? We should deal with that one.
I'm looking now. No.
So I think we should bring that up as one of the near-term agenda items. And I think it was going to be, Bob, was it Laura and, sorry, I'm losing my.
There is a future agenda item that will cover this. I forget, it's in May. I don't remember which meeting. It's Allison and Laura.
Allison and Laura, right. Okay, if it's already there, great.
There's also the town manager / select board goals conversation / retreat we discussed. One thing the town meeting asked us to do in November, which we're not going to be doing for this town meeting, but I feel should not fall off the radar, is regulating Airbnbs and similar operations.
Yep.
Yes, staff has had several discussions with town council on that. Just not quite ready to come to the board.
Okay.
Excuse me, Ann, do you mean regulating as far as like the taxes and fees? Is that what
I think that's the main, but I don't know what, we haven't opened up the full conversation, so I don't know if there would be other forms of regulation, but certainly would include taxes and fees.
Right. I don't know if there's enough time for the park discussion in a couple weeks. I'll leave that.
Yep, I think that should go on the next one if we have room.
Yeah.
Just a question, if there are enough applicants before our next meeting, would the VASC want to meet, or should the board sit down and see where we are at the next meeting and then decide about VASC?
I'd like to see who they are. Nothing personal, but I think that's the right step.
I'm fine. I'm good with that too.
I think this conversation isn't quite ripe yet, but would like to, invite the chief to present on RPD policies. I know we talked about that before, but I think if we can do that, that I don't think is immediate, but it should be on our horizon.
Yep, agree.
The other thing, I just started keeping the tickler, first ever tickler of these items. So we are, as a select board, we talked about that with Bob a little bit. We're very far behind in the parent pinning ceremonies for both fire and police, and that's usually a select board item. So I don't know if Bob, if the staff is working on that and you want to come back to us, or if we should stick something on an agenda.
Well, where we left it is as soon as the board meets in person, then we can invite in families in person that we do it.
Well, I don't think the board discussed it. Did the board discuss this? I don't know if the board discussed that, and that, that's certainly an option.
And I know that when we do it, we should invite them to come first on the agenda, given, some of them are going to have young kids who need to get to bed, etc. So I think when we do it, we should have them first on the agenda. We could even think about start opening the meeting early if that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking of, Yeah, so I didn't know if we want to have a discussion because I was thinking Mark did, was it Veterans Day, Mark, that you did on the town common where the weather's nice again? Maybe something like that would be appealing and that, you know, that would be a nice way to do it too. So. just don't
That's true.
trust.
Would it make sense for Mark and I to reach out to the chiefs as public safety liaisons to get a sense of what their interest is and what kind of format?
I think that's a great idea. Thank you. It's late. I'm running out of great ideas. Thank you.
Karen, Chris has a hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chris?
Is there anything we can add about somewhat trying to get small businesses to come and fill all the units that are around here? Is there anything that we can possibly add to the agenda for that? You know what I mean? There's just all the 40Rs and all that, other than Drew's Stews and whatnot, it doesn't seem like there's anything going on and whatnot. I'm just wondering what's dissuading people, if it is the parking overall thing, or if there's something else that can be discussed of what's preventing people from coming here for the most part.
Bob?
I can add, Chris, that our economic development director comes in on a sort of informal basis, maybe 3 or 4 times a year to update the board. And that's the kind of topic she would cover.
Okay.
I'm sure she'd be happy to address that.
Perfect.
Okay.
You want to, is that a good thing to put into a May agenda, do you think?
Yeah, I was going to suggest that, Mark. Yeah, I think, yeah, one of the May meetings would be nice. Maybe the 18th one, quick update.
Okay.
So Bob is, yeah, I would like to make the motion. I was just wondering, is Ivrea going to join us again?
She's in the waiting room. Oh, no, she's actually not in the waiting room. She's
You're waiting. Okay, well, okay, we're way behind. So let's do that. Let's make a motion, to move to executive session.
Okay, so here's the motion. Move that the board go into an executive session, including Ivrea Freed from Miaris and Harrington and staff members Bob Lasher and Caitlin Saunders Nocella to discuss strategy with respect to civil court and administrative actions involving 59 Middlesex Avenue and the purchase of said property. Further, the chair declared that an open meeting could have a detrimental effect on the litigating and negotiation position of the board and to not reconvene in open session.
Second.
So I think we can just go through a roll call vote, Karen.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Okay, Anne?
Yes.
Carlo?
Yes.
Mark?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Karen? Yes. Thank you.
So you want, I think, to adjourn from